Here we go. Hi there, my name is Kendrick, and today I get to interview Lucas. So, Lucas, welcome back, dude.
Hey, what's up, man?
Yeah, good, dude. Yeah, good to have you again. So, Lucas, for those who did not watch our first interview, can you please let everyone know what your full type is?
Yeah, I have FF, ENFP, NEFI, consume, sleep, play, blast.
Gotcha. And what's your social type?
Type 4, as
Gotcha.
far as I know. Like, isn't that one the one that like you can check if you want with them, but it's not really required?
I think most people know their social type from what I've seen. Like, yeah, I think most people are aware. It's one of those things, kind of like when you were back in school and you take the multiple choice questions and then you second guess yourself, you erase it, you put it something else, and then what you originally thought you were was always right. So it's kind of like that kind of deal. Because like I've seen some people erase their first social type after the tribe says something else, but then usually people know what their social type is. It's kind of like pretty obvious. I think I've only seen a few people like get it off, which I won't say here because like I don't want anyone.
Yeah,
This person has TI, so I don't want them to be like you're wrong. um,
right.
anyhow, I want to start this interview actually asking you about your journey working on your double feminine ST Blast last. My first question for you for that before you go talk about your journey with that. I was interviewing a bunch of consume last people a while back, and a lot of them were DI too, like tribe self above tribe. And I heard them say, and I've heard Dave say this as well because he's also consume last. They don't have permission to consume. It's like what? But you're like self above tribe. What do you mean you don't have permission to consume? You can do whatever you want because you're like self above tribe. They're like, no, there's a voice that says you can't unless the tribe
I
says.
think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So I want to ask you for that for your blast. Do you feel like you need permission from the tribe to blast first?
Definitely. Yeah, that's a good insight, bro, because like what you just said about consume, that reminds me of my dad, because I was just talking to him about some stuff I've been writing, and he was telling me like, "Well, son, it's not that I don't like you or don't believe you, it's that we were told this was from the devil for a long time." So I wonder if it's something like that, like, well, new information is not safe, or like that was like, I don't know, Pokemon is, demonic or whatever. Like, you get what I mean? Like, stay away from the stuff that's not already like we've pasteurized it. So I
Yeah.
wonder if that's part of what the consume thing is. But for me with the blast, it definitely feels like I never know enough. And I've asked people that lots of times, like, when do you know enough to start teaching? So I definitely relate.
Is it like when you start teaching, you kind of have like imposter syndrome almost, or is it just like you don't feel like you know enough to be an expert in this topic to be speaking about on it?
It's like being blast last is always being aware of the Dunning-Kruger effect and never wanting to fall for it.
The what effect?
The Dunning-Kruger effect,
What is
the
that?
one that like if you think you're really smart in a certain area, well, it turns out statistically you're you're probably overestimating and there's a dip and then you start to do what Socrates did where he said like, "Oh, I know that I know nothing," and then you start getting wise again. But there's that period, and I think Blast Last is like afraid of coming off looking like the guy Socrates is calling out.
Oh,
Like this guy's talking, but he doesn't know.
the consume last. Just kidding. Kind of half kidding. No, I'm
Yeah,
not
so it's
kidding.
like you have to save it because like you don't want to like make yourself look like a fool. And I think it's also because I don't know how it is for the consume, but at least for the Blast Last, it's like it hurts in a way that like you cast your pearls before swine when it doesn't work out. Whereas like
Is
with
there like a
consume, it's whatever. You give somebody a, like, oh, these enchiladas suck. It's like there's nothing to it. But if I'm like, no, this is like the recipe that I've been practicing, and like I think it's really good. Let me know what you think. And they're like, that was some awful stuff. I'd be like, I think it's that. Like, you don't
is
want
there
to
like
do
a
that.
part of you like that feels like you also don't want to be wrong, kind of like very TI like, if you blast, or not really? It's just like you don't want to be that effect that you were just explaining just now.
Wrong isn't like not in a TI way. Like
Yeah.
I often don't. I think it's because I have masculinity, but I
Yeah,
never really think that I'm. I just think I'm not communicating it right.
I see.
Because whenever I see that I'm wrong, that's a totally different thing. It's not a part of the communicate. Like I'm just like, oh, whoops. Like, you know what? I was on a different page. That's different than like, or like I made a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. I was wrong, like an apology. But like if it's just like like a association thing, then I think like that's a masculine in me thing, and like the feminine SI has to kind of follow. I don't think you probably have those issues because isn't yours the other way? Don't you have masculine SI?
I have masculine SI, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the people that I talk to in ops also have masculine intuition. And so like we all kind of relate to a lot of the same kind of like these patterns like just won't quit. Like it's like karma problems, you know?
Can
We
you
can't
share?
stop it.
Yeah, can you elaborate on that? Like you can't
Sure.
stop the patterns? Like what do you mean you can't stop the patterns?
So like if the intuition is masculine and it's a savior, then it's unconscious and it's pushy.
Yeah,
So it's something unconscious and pushy, which means you don't know that you're doing it. Like kind of like shaking your leg under the table or something. It's unconscious. Like you don't know that you're like the first time you smoke that cigarette, you're gonna smoke it for the rest of your life.
yeah.
You don't know that. You just think you're trying this new thing, and so that's what it is. It's like you get caught in the cycle, because of the like, I don't know, that's at least the way I think about it.
So you can get trapped into like addictions and stuff with masculine N? Is that what you're saying?
At least in terms of the inability to break cycles.
Oh, I
Because if
see.
like the pattern is codified, it's become masculine. It's a hard thing that I can't really. It's like you're telling me like it would be like I see the lines in the walls that make the seams, and you're like, oh no, it's a big circular room. It's like, nah, you can't pull that on me. I already see the thing. Like the masculinity pushes and it says, nah, I can't be tricked by your little sleight of hand sensory trick. I know what's really going on here.
That's funny.
Like you can't trick me. My eyes won't. You're not gonna get it past me.
Yeah, you sound
Where a
kind of
savior. I'm not saying savior sensory like it gets past them. That's not what I'm trying to. I'm
yeah,
just saying like I feel like it's a different thing. Like NF is kind of like what's really going on here the whole time because it can't trust its eyes.
yeah. I can semi relate because I'm also an ENFP like you, and I do have NEFI as my first two functions, and it happens to me especially when I'm booking like a flight or something,
Mm.
and even though I have masculine SI, I'm like, am I really flying tomorrow? That's what I'm thinking, right? Even though I paid for the ticket already, and I'm like, am I really flying tomorrow? I know I paid this like website for this ticket, but like does that mean I get to sit on an airplane and I get to fly? And I've done it, dude. I've been to 101 countries, right? And like I've flown like so many times. And I always have the same question.
It's
Like,
always like that.
yeah, I always think I'm like, am
Mhm.
I flying tomorrow? Is it just as
Okay, so for masculine intuition, it's something more like you looking for a groove or like like trying to get into a safe. Like you're
yeah,
feeling for that groove, and then when it goes in, you're like, aha. Like what I guess I mean is I also travel for what I not it's for my job,
yeah,
but I like for the first 3 or 4 times when it disrupted the pattern, my saviors were like, I fucking hate this job. I want to quit. Like this is awful. I keep hurting myself. This is
yeah.
the worst week of my life. Like it was just always this stuff. But like now I've been on like 6 or 7 and like you just get used to getting used to it, man. Like
The
it
pattern, you mean?
stops like yeah, like the pattern flips on you. Like the pattern codifies the other way, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I also think like the NF consume because I think travel powers it up in some way. Like I don't know if that you feel that way, but like
No,
for me,
I definitely relate. I wish I could travel more, but I definitely relate to what you mean.
yeah, it's like I've always seen NF as like a battery for motivation, purpose, meaning, and whatnot. And like when you do tap into it, especially like if you look at the definition of any FI, it's like gathering new experience for self, or you're gathering
Mhm.
new for self, sorry. Because you could experiences could be SE also, but like, gathering new for self. But like with the NF flavor, right? And it's like, oh, the new powers you up, gives you like even like a new movie, right? Like it gives you like that motivation. And it dissipates also just as quick, which is kind of annoying. So you have to do something with it right away, otherwise it goes away. That's what I feel as an info dump person with a consumer and blast in the middle. I know you have blast last, so I'm kind of curious as a blast laster, having that consume and blast like as far away from each other as you could possibly be, being first and fourth. Uh, what do you do when you have that power, that like power up, that motivation, that purpose, that meaning? Do you do anything with
Oh
it?
yeah, yeah. I feel so the way I conceptualize this is that I'm like Moana.
Yeah,
I have to go before other people. Like they don't want to leave the island. They've been told it's scary. Like
Yeah,
I kind of said with my dad, this is all from like, what if this is from the devil? How do you know? So I got to go before and check it out. So I kind of like think of myself as like the caveman that would like eat the berry and then like if I died, well then you knew, don't eat that one.
yeah,
Like that's my role. But like in the 21st century, I don't actually have to die. I can just kind of like test this stuff out for you and be like, you know what? I've seen 87,000 different binaural beats videos, and these three channels are the ones that actually do something. So I can recommend to you, like with SI or whatever, instead of a savior recommendation, like, oh, I just had some amazing enchiladas. You gotta try them. I feel like savior recommendations are kind of lame in that, or like at least savior consume. But whenever you have like the funneled thing and you have something like happy to give. That's why I mentioned earlier that like it's a pearl, and then whenever you give it to someone and they're like, you listen to binaural beats, like if that's something that then happens after you've done that, you're gonna like feel like shit because like you said, it's your battery, like that's your like power, whatever, and then you were gonna go share it. It's like if you asked someone if you could pray for them and they were like prayers would do anything. I don't know exactly the good analogy for this, but I hope it's like getting across.
yeah. I mean, I get what you're saying. I don't think the audience will, but I
Oh
get,
no.
I get. I mean, unless they have NF. Also, I have NF consume, so I get what you're saying. But I'm kind of curious though, based on what you just said. So you're doing the Moana thing, where like you'll be the first one to set off on a journey or an adventure or to try something. Just the very act of trying. Isn't the act of trying blast, but like you're actually using
That's a really
consume,
interesting way of putting it. Yeah.
but you're actually using consume, so it's weird. You're like, okay, you're quick to consume something, but it feels like blast, but
The
that's
way that I think about this, Kendrick, is it's a little bit like what do you call it? Like, you ever see that movie Charlotte's Web with like
I read the
the
book.
pig? Oh, okay, well there's like a scene in the movie where the rat, I think his name is Templeton, he's like digging, I don't know, there's like the circus just ended or something, and he sings in a whole song about a smorgasbord and like how there's all these different things to choose from. And I kind of feel like that's what's really going on is that I've also tried all the garbage, but I'm only going to blast the stuff that's valuable. So I've filtered it for you with consume. Does that make
And
sense? Like you don't have to taste this other garbage that was no good. All the websites that were just bunk and that was a fake
yeah,
guru and that was a dud Amazon book. They wrote it with AI. See, I figured out all the dumb stuff because I'm a moron and I fall for all of it. But I'm smart enough to then be like, like I figure it out and then I'll be like still telling my brother like, hey, you got to read this book or you got to check out this thing because like I guess the SI is good in a certain sense because it's seen so many different things and then it can
yeah,
tailor for the tribe, right? So it's like, well, my brother, like, I don't know, he doesn't want to hear from these kinds of people, or my dad, he doesn't want to hear these kinds of concepts, but
yeah,
it's all the same shit, and you know that because you're an F2. So, like, it's just how do I package it for this particular guy so he's not offended by it? You
yeah,
know, I'm not trying to sneak in stuff, but it's like the truth's the truth, and
yeah,
if your particular like hang up about it is that could be curandera. Well, it's the same hang up as somebody who's got the complete other perspective, like doing curandera on purpose. That's still based on fear, right? So like don't be afraid. And I try to like always like let people know like, oh, like what I find over and over and over again, that's another thing. It's like the NE is like seen this pattern a million times. Like Buddha says don't fear. Jesus says don't fear. Like, are these guys all morons or what?
yeah.
I don't think so. So like
It's
this is good wisdom. You can trust it.
it sounds like you're doing like a mix of two things at once. Like first is double deciding, obviously, because you're custom tailoring the message to the individual. So it's not like one size fits all kind of deal. And it's based on your consume. So obviously you've done a lot, so you are quite aware of which one is good and which is bad. Um, but the other thing also is kind of like what Shan does is like she'll do like a crap ton of consume, and then she'll go in like a massive blast, and you can't stop her when she's blasting. Especially hers is double masculine, but yours is double feminine, so it's a little bit like softer, I guess, when it comes out. But like, but it sounds like it's not like the stop go like what info dumps are doing. We're like we'll consume a little bit and then blast a little bit, consume a little bit, blast a little bit. We're doing it with the energy stuff, right? Like for us, it's like I work and kill myself, and then I burn out, and you don't see me. It's like
Hmm.
like what you guys are more balanced with that kind of things, right? Um,
Yeah.
I actually want to know. I'm curious. before you answer that question. Because I have that, info dom, go crazy, work, kill myself for info, and then work, and then I burn out. Then I can use my sleep, right? Like for me, play blast consume sleep, right? Um, the swing, I mean. So I actually like that. I actually like working, and then I burn out. And when I burn out, for me, I'm like success. Like I don't like it as much as I used to as I get older. But like before, for me, like now I've earned my rest. That's kind of like how I feel. Like I have nothing left. There's nothing left in the batteries. I have earned this rest, and all I'm gonna do for the next week is play video games and sleep for like 9 to 12 hours. I'm not gonna get out of bed, and I'm just gonna relax, right? Because I've earned it, right?
Yeah.
So for you, like the first part of this question then is like, do you like the feeling then of like massively consuming stuff and then finally you're like, I'm ready to attack now. I have like all this like info and I'm ready to blast. And then do you like that aspect of things, or would you prefer you can do what like info dumps are doing, where it's like a quick, easy back and forth with the information, but with the sacrifice of your energy, you know?
I think it's something kind of in the middle in the fact of like I can't just hoard it all because I can't remember it with masculine sensory.
Right, fair enough.
Yeah, so it's like I gotta do that thing that I'm doing where I'm like, it's probably like Buddha and Jesus and Socrates. Like there was a bunch of them, right? Like it's that kind of thing, and it makes me look dumb. So if I do a bunch of prep, well then yeah, I might try to do that, but I have to write in order to do that. I
Yeah,
can't do it like otherwise I get insecure that I'm gonna say the wrong sensory and it's gonna make me look bad. But not in like a way like make me look bad is like sounds like a pride thing, but it's like it destroys anything that I'm trying to say if I if I package it in a way that makes it undesirable. You get what I mean?
kind of, kind of. But I
Yeah.
mean, like, I'm also curious, when you are blasting, do you shock yourself also at like, oh my God, this is really interesting. Like, especially if you prepared it, like you have a PowerPoint presentation or you wrote it down and you forgot the sensory already, and then you're doing the presentation and you're like, oh my God, this is really interesting. And you're like, you're supposed to be the one teaching this to people, but then
Hmm.
you heard, because you heard the sensory again, you're like, wow, this is
Yeah.
so interesting. Like you're almost like consuming yourself again.
Wait, I thought you were saying something different. I was relating to a different thing.
No,
I
it's fine.
don't
I channel change. I channel change.
I thought you were saying that like, well, because this thing happens to me all the time where I'm talking and then I'm like, Dina, how come that's my wife's name? I'm like, how come we didn't record that conversation? That was one of my like where I said a bunch of stuff I don't know.
Yeah,
So I think sometimes blast is like, since it's not like, at least for a double feminine ST blast,
yeah.
it's like I'm sharing with you stuff that I didn't even know that I knew. So it's kind of the opposite of what you're saying. Like I don't remember ever learning this or that I know it, but there it is, and it seems relevant.
And
So
it
I'm gonna
came from
tell you.
you. And it came from you.
Yeah, and it came out of me, but I don't remember how I learned that. But I have a certainty or faith that it's true, so I feel comfortable sharing it.
So what are you storing then if you're consuming stuff and you don't remember anything? Like what are you storing? Are you storing like the patterns? So what you're
I think it comes in songs. Because like my brain is always doing jukebox
okay.
mode. Does masculine sensory do that too? Where like you just kind of like it's not so much that like I want to sing a little song in my head. It's like you don't know, you don't have a volume knob and it just always does it.
Um, I'm not getting your analogy. Can you
No,
elaborate?
I'm being very literal. It's not an analogy. You have music playing in your head that you can't ever make go quiet because it's like persistent. Kind of like thoughts. How people are like, "Oh, I just can't stop thinking. I have these like ruminating thoughts." For me, it's music.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So it's a little bit different for me. Being like a different kind of ENFP than you, but I think I think my sister's the same type as you actually. I think she's a double feminine ENFP, consumes sleep, play blast also. And like when she listens to music, it like she feels like she's swept by it. Like she's like being like, like she's swept by the music, right? Like she's going along
Yeah,
with
for
it.
sure.
So I feel like that's what's
But you
happening.
have to be careful what you listen to.
Right, of
That's
course.
for me. You have to be discerning because if I go listen to metal, I'm gonna feel like shit for hours. It's just the
That's
way it is.
that's
And
crazy.
my brother thinks that's bizarre, but it's like, sorry.
I think that's like double masculine NF actually. Like you've really literally absorbed the vibe of the song, like completely absorbed the vibe. But anyhow, So I think that's music in your head that's playing, even though you're not listening to music, but there's still something playing in your head. You're still getting swept by it. It's from
Well,
this.
I'm also, yes, and I'm also, it's telling me stuff I don't know, just like my blast. Like sometimes I'll be like dealing with something and I'll be like puzzling over like what I should do, and then like the song will just like in my head
Yeah.
will like become the words will be relevant to what I should do. So it's like kind of like my intuition uses it in a sense. I don't
Oh,
know exactly how it works. I don't want to be like too like woo woo, but I'm just saying that like I think like the brain, the same part of it that is chirping the music,
yeah.
it for me, I think also is like the right brain or whatever that does the creative stuff. I don't know.
Well, if anyone's allowed to be woo, it's you
This is
for
what I
sure.
mean about the sensory. I feel stupid when I say stuff like that. But
No,
like
no.
I feel like I know what I mean, but I don't know how to say it.
Oh, I get that part. Yeah, I get that part. Like from your perspective. But
Mhm.
I remember I was reading a book by Brian Tracy. I don't know if you know him. Like he's like the self-help guy. Like he wrote a lot
Oh
of books.
yes, yes. Eat the
Yeah,
frog, dude.
yeah, Eat the Frog guy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love his books. But I remember there was like he had like he all his books are the same. He writes about the exact same thing every time for all his books. They're all exactly the same
Mhm.
because he's an IJ, right? Um, but it's kind of funny. He always has this one chapter that's like purely NF. This whole chapter is all NF, and he calls it the super conscious mind. And basically, like the super conscious mind tells you the answer that you need for the exact like the time that you need it. And like even though he's like, I think someone in the community said David Chan typed him as an ISFJ jumper, like SITI or something. I don't actually know if that's true or not, but I do think he's an IJ for sure. But like I always thought it was funny that of all like the TI stuff that he's talking about, or like the logical stuff he talks about, there is this is one woo woo chapter in there that talks about the super conscious mind that like tells you the answer exactly when you need it. And apparently like it works especially well when you're like writing something, like if you're brainstorming, I guess with NE. So I guess for you, that's kind of like what he's trying to describe, like the super conscious mind, where it's like, that the answer is there. You can't pull it you can't pull it out from like pure willpower because you have feminine sensory and you can't like store it like I do with masculine sensory. But when you need it, for some reason, the super conscious mind or the subconscious knows you need it for this time, it's gonna come out. And even you're shocked that it's there. So it's like a
Yeah,
subconscious compilation of
a
information.
song will come on that I don't remember knowing, and I'll just start singing it. And I'll be like, "Oh yeah, I do know this song. I
Yeah,
don't know how I know it. How long's it been since I heard this song? Who sings this?" I'm starting asking all these questions, but
yeah,
I'm still knowing the song. So I get what you mean.
yeah, yeah. So I just wanted to relate to that concept that he kind of talked about because I'm like, oh, that just sounds like what he was talking about before. So dude, I want to hear from your personal
Hmm.
perspective now. Your journey, ST Blast. What's it been like since we last our first interview, which I don't even remember when. When did we do our first interview? Was it like 3 years ago or
Well, I
something?
don't know exactly, but it said 2 years on the YouTube
2 years?
page.
Okay, so 2 years ago. Okay. So what has been your experience like working on that SD Blast last of yours since then? Like, do you
So
feel
I
like
actually have like quite a bit of success for this because I uh I currently work a construction job. So
really?
yeah,
That's like the
yeah,
most like un-ENFP job. But okay, I want to hear. Yeah.
yeah. I have my tools. I don't have any of them to show you. But I have this is me being like want to show off a why. But it's like I have like the way that I organize it and I have these little kits and systems that I use to like keep everything in order. And I have like I wear a tool vest to keep everything on me. It's kind of like in it's actually just like an Iron, not an Iron Man, in Avengers, whenever like every time Tony like loses, he like upgrades his suit.
Yeah, he does.
It's
Yeah.
actually just like that because like I'll be like I'll have a job where remember I was like I go out on jobs like my sixth job, same thing. I'll like on my first job I'll realize like I am always like leaving stuff on top of this ladder and like I drop something on my head. Like I learned for the next job, gotta always wear a helmet. You gotta always like put the stuff away after that. So it's like I learn one thing every time and I just like reiterate, right? It's just a reiteration game and there's no problem with reiterating. You don't ever get bored with it or annoyed with
Oh,
it. It's
I
just a
see.
fun thing.
You're stacking the SI then in this case.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
it's feminine, right? I can just be like, I can use any of this for anything. I'm a tool king. That's
Yeah.
my like fun little internal game is that like I am learning how to use all this stuff. And it's just like being in a video game and getting new kits and stuff, but it's actually happening in real life. So I've actually got a reverse analogy. right? Like I don't need to be like, it's like a video game. No, the video game's like real life. You just never did any of that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's actually true. Yeah, we are video game avatars at the end of the day, and we have attributes that do level up.
For sure.
It's the annoying thing is it's unless it's like you're doing like gym workout, it's not so apparent sometimes that it's happening until like a situation does occur where you're like, oh, I'm actually a lot more competent at this than I thought. Like so
Or just stuff that you were dealing with that you're no longer dealing with, and you just notice it's not there. Kind of like when you
yeah,
notice a headache's not there anymore. Yeah, like, oh,
it's
I'm no longer
crazy.
leaving my tools everywhere. I just have them on me all the time, and no one's ever like, Lucas, go get your tools. Like that never happens to me anymore. I fixed it.
You know what? I'm
So,
actually curious about this because I'm sleep last and you're sleep savior, right? So I'm curious about this. So for me, like that thing that you were just explaining about like some problem that you used to have is not a problem for you anymore. Like
mhm.
it's just like because you've leveled up and clearly it's like you're just so much you've beaten this demon already or this boss is like too low level for you now, right? You've gotten too much
Okay, I get what you mean. Sure,
you
yeah.
got way too much XP, like life XP that like this is like a joke now, right? It's like the first raid and then you're 10 raids ahead and then now you go back to the first raid and then you don't even need that.
Yeah, I get what you mean now. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I thought you were trying to say that I was like already super good at the game, and I'm like, dude, I am not good. I'm still a noob. But I get what you mean now. You're like, it's like your sixth raid, like it's your sixth job.
Yeah, like
Like you already kind of get what we're doing. You know how the clan works. You know all your moves.
yeah, you might not
Like,
even need a party anymore. You can do it, you can solo it probably even, right? Like that kind of deal, right? So it's like I'm curious though. So for me, that realization that like, oh, I've leveled up so much. I'm a lot like more better or leveled up than before. It takes me a few years before that realization happens because I have sleep last, right? So I'm not updating my identity as fast. So I'm curious about you having sleep savior. Do you feel like you're constantly updating your identity then as a result? Like you're like almost like it's happening between jobs, like that from what you're doing. Like from the next job, you've already updated your identity to the point where you're like, oh, I made that mistake last time. I'm not gonna make the same mistake this time, and as a result, you perform better. And
mhm.
it's like, and you've already embodied that competence, that new competence that you've developed as a result of learning from your mistakes. Do you feel like that's happening constantly, having sleep savior?
Yeah, I feel like that's basic. Like one thing told my wife, like I don't know what kind of exactly the phrasing or the context was, but it was more or less a game where we were talking to each other about stuff, and then somebody brought up that like me or her, just
Yes.
like, well, what is your best or worst quality or something like that, like, or maybe, oh, I remember now. Somebody made a joke about like, oh, it's one of my worst qualities, and I was like, ah, I got a fun one. What's your best quality? And she gave me whatever her answer was. I don't remember because I'm sleep consume sleep saver. I got double FI.
Yeah.
But I remember what I said after that, which was uh I well, actually I don't remember what I said because I just went away. What were we talking about, Kendrick? I went on this long tangent to give context and then I forgot why. What was the question?
Oh no, I was asking. So I have demon sleep and you have savior sleep. So we're talking about leveling up ourselves in real life, and the XP we gain from real life experience. So I was just mentioning earlier that for me, there is almost like years in between before that
Hmm.
identity upgrade comes. Well, for you, it happens almost like on a per job basis, or like you have an identity boost. It's almost like I hoarded all my attribute points and I didn't like use them for like a year. And then I press all the buttons. Suddenly I'm like so strong all of a
That's a
sudden.
good analogy.
You know what I mean? It's like so so in your case, it's like, do you it's like almost like you spent your attribute points already and then you're ready for the next job, and you're aware that you're already stronger.
Yeah, like in between each job, you go to the barracks and you buy your new items and you get kitted back out.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to go back without ammo. You don't want to forget to reload.
But
Like
like,
it's that kind of thing.
so my question though is like with masculine FI, when does it solidify that you are aware and you not just aware but you embody that new sense of confidence from that life experience that you've had where it
I think it's always that I'm telling myself the same kind of thing, and then there's stumbling that like temporarily makes it not true, and I just prove myself again. Like I know I'm competent, then I drop a wrench on my head, and then I feel stupid, and I feel angry, and I all this stuff happens, and then I coach myself back out of it, and the next day I'm like, let's go. I got a big bump on my head, but I'm not bothered. So I don't know if that exactly answers your question, but it's like I don't feel the need to ruminate or dwell like maybe a lot of other consume sleep people do. I maybe got that all out of the way in the past. Like I just was a really ruminating like adolescent. But
So wait, so no, I'm actually curious what the process is like when you're like self-updating, where in terms of like, because from the sound of it, it sounds like you're already self-assured to the point where like you're proving yourself. You don't have to prove to yourself that you are competent. You already know, and the only time you lose that confidence is when shit hits the fan.
but it happens all the time. Like I was trying to pour a soda into a cup yesterday and spilled it all over the counter. And the first thought is, you fucking dumbass, Lucas. It's the same kind of thing. And
Yeah,
it's like, I don't need to hear that. I don't need to tell myself that kind of stuff. It doesn't help. But the pattern, the masculine NE, never updates itself and says, this thing just doesn't work. It'll just the pattern just keeps firing. And that's what I mean when I say like I don't know how to make the radio stop. I don't know how to make the like so I have to change these things in the sensory and then you're saying, well, it's updating in the background. I guess that really is what's happening because all I'm doing is making changes and decisions in the real world.
yeah.
And then like my subconscious is handling it. I don't know.
But my question is, when do you get that like flash of realization that you have upgraded?
Mm.
And
That oh dude, I'm sorry it took me 4 questions to get what your question was.
it's okay.
Um Oh, I do know. I have actually a great analogy for it, but I shouldn't use the analogy. I should just tell you the answer. It's whenever you get the a little like aha, and it's no longer confusing. Like whenever you first started typing and you had to like look at every single thing, or whenever you first started using a car and like you would put in the clutch and your car would jerk forward and backward, but as you use it more, you start to get used to these things and you stop dropping your screws and these little errors begin to become less and less and less and less. I
Yes,
feel like that's what I'm describing. Like that's whenever I observe it and I no longer like am like making that like sure I'm still spilling drinks and so that one I still notice. But if at some point I'm like, it's been like a year since I spilled a drink, I'd be like, so it'd be then.
yeah. It's kind of like when you first learn how to type, you're like looking at the keyboard, and then now it's like, and then you're not even thinking about it.
Exactly. It's the
Yeah,
same thing.
yeah, yeah. I think for me that happened with video editing, because like I think it was like a few weeks ago. Like I remember when I first did video editing, I wanted to kill myself because it was so much SI work. I was like, fuck me. I have to edit like 30-minute video. What is this shit? Oh my God, fuck me. I want to die, you know? And then and I didn't know the buttons back then, like the shortcuts and stuff for I use Final Cut Pro for editing. So I'm like, I didn't know. But then I think just like earlier this year, or yeah, earlier this year and last year, and when I started doing like explainer videos and stuff, and I doing some video editing with Final Cut Pro, I just like one day I just like stopped, and I'm like, what the hell? Like I'm not even thinking about it. I'm just like I felt like I was typing, like but I was
Yep.
editing, but it was like it was so fast, and um it actually gave me that realization, like for ENFPs and even ENTPs with the SI at the bottom. I was like, oh my God, you can get good at this SI stuff. You can actually use it. And
Yeah, and you start to see what Dave and Shannon have been saying this whole time, which is that we've been making excuses and leaving blind spots. Like we could have paid attention, but we
but but
just we're having more fun over here.
exactly. But I did see ISTJs in action with the SI. And when I saw them in action, I was
But
like,
they're like
no, no,
like Bruce Almighty keys.
I was like, oh God, I thought I improve a lot, but this is a different level what they're doing. Like this is a whole different level. Having it at the top, like the big fat green SI versus like my little tiny green SI at the bottom is like this. It's I you can, so basically what that told me is like, as an ENFP, you can get to a point of competence with that SI, but you will never be like the ninja master, like the ICJs with the SI at the top. Like you'll never reach that other level where like kind of like with our NE, like how quick we are with the NE. Like it's like they can get to the point where they can get competent at using their NE, but they'll never be the ninja master.
You know what's kind of making me think of in elementary school, were there ever annoying kids in your class who would take a pencil and like tap it on the table and like make all these different rhythms
Yeah.
or anything like that? Yeah, so it's like the just the tapping and the like making of the different rhythms kind of reminds me of what you were saying. Kendrick, what were you saying?
Oh,
This is what it's like having feminine sensory, by the way.
it's cool. I was just saying that, like
Because the
as
tapping was like, oh, this is perfect. And then I was like, but why? This
like
happens a
what
lot.
does this have to do with this conversation? But like no, because I was just saying earlier, like when I observe ISTJs, like I had previous jobs with ISTJs. I thought my S high has gotten quite good because I've practiced it quite a bit. And
Right.
I saw someone that has it as their first function, and I'm like,
Yeah.
just in
So now I
awe,
remember what I was gonna say. It's
jaw drop.
basically narrow. It's kind of like in Moana how the dad is like, no, this is the way we do the island. Like the coconuts come up here and like it's this is the way it is. Like we have the recipe, we have the prescription. Um, and I don't need to use the stick thing because Moana works better. Because it's like the SI is, yeah, it can do that one trick better. Oh, that's why I was thinking about this the thing. It's because it's like any one of those things, like being a twirler or spinning your gun
Yeah,
in ROTC or banging your thing on the desk or twiddling your pin through your finger. If you do that thing long enough, whatever that thing is, if you do it long enough, you'll be able to do it unconsciously without having to think about it, and you'll be able to do other stuff. And so, like, I think that like the process of that like becoming unconscious is like learning. Maybe we could just give it an easy term, but like the learning I can learn something I think better than an ISTJ can if they have a bad habit. Because I won't have the bad habit because I haven't done it for 30 years the weird way.
oh, I see, because it's harder to relearn something than to start from scratch.
One example of this is when I first started playing guitar, I had a friend of mine who's like a probably 20 years older than me guitar player. He was like, if I could tell you one thing, do not put your pinky on the guitar whenever you finger pick because you will be stuck like that. And you'll only have three fingers to play with, and it just never gets better. You can't unlearn it. So if I could pass on anything, practice holding your hand over the things and don't plant ever. And I was like, all right, you got it, dude. Because
Yeah,
like I already knew that like kind of like your face is gonna get stuck that way. Like I don't want to like what I kind of what I said earlier. I don't want to could continue bad habits. Like once I identify that this is not the right or the correct way or not a productive way, I
yeah,
want to change like to the correct. So like same thing with the like you called it like upgrading yourself. Like I'm just learning how to tie my shoes better. I don't really know about if it's a self upgrade,
yeah.
but yeah.
Oh, you know what? That makes so much sense now too. Why the ISTJs would have so much trouble with or just not but IGs in general would have so much trouble changing things because they have a way, and if the way is not done properly from the start, the foundation, then it topples up everything, and that is scary. That is like the worst chaos you could ever experience, right? Like kind of like Lego blocks, like the foundation. Oh, you forgot like one piece at the bottom, and then
Mhm.
now this thing's not cannot be finished now. You have to destroy everything, rebuild it, and they're like, you don't want to do it, right? So it's like some IJs were
Yeah.
like they'll just keep building, and then it's a time bomb now, right? But like the ones who are smart, they'll maybe like cry and like hide in their room for like 3 months just being depressed, and then they'll start from scratch again, and at least they're doing it right. And there's muscle memory, so you'll get back there faster than you when you first did it, right? Um, but because it's almost like an illusion you're starting from scratch. You're not starting from scratch. You have the skill set. Like if I had to start my YouTube channel from scratch, I would like it would grow a lot faster than when I first did it because I didn't know a lot of stuff back then. I didn't know like I was like even with my channel recently, I updated my pin because I pin this comment where I have like all my explainer videos on how each animal works. So that because like a lot of people come to my channel and the common complaint, I guess, like, what are these people saying? Like, what is this animal stuff? What is letter shit? Like, so I'm like, you know what? I'm sick of dealing with these people. I'll just put a pin. It's like, and the pin is like, if you don't know what the letters mean, click the link, and I have like a bunch of like info dumb, right? And kind of also energy because I don't want to waste my energy responding to all these people, right? Um, so recently I updated my pin because like there's the social type is out, so I made a social type series, and then I made a cognitive function series too because like I've been wanting to do it for a long time. So I've updated a lot of stuff. So I re-updated all the pin, but then I have to do the SI. I have to go back to all my interviews from the very start, one at a time, and repaste the pin, which is so annoying. But like passively, I got to rewatch a lot of my old videos by accident because like while I'm pinning it's playing in the background, right? And like
Mhm.
I was thinking to myself like, oh my god, I can't believe I used to interview people like this. Like it's kind of like I was like, oh geez, like I'm so much better now than before. Although I feel like I lost some edge too, because I remember in my old interview I was more offensive. So I feel like I lost.
That thing may happen faster for sleep saviors than a sleep, like where you're cringed out by yourself.
Yeah.
Like how long does it take for you to look back and go like, oh, what was I doing? Like that will happen to me after like 2 or 3 days if I'm not.
Oh no, no, that happens right away.
Okay, okay, okay.
No, that's
Okay.
no, no, that happens right away if it's external. Because I think that's consume, because consumes external self-awareness. So you're aware of how you come across from external perspective. So because I have blast and consume in the middle, right? So I can blast, and after I blast, the consume kicks in, right? And I'm like, oh God, what did I say? I sound so cringe. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, oh God, like, and yeah. But um I guess you could say that's part of sleep too, because then the sleep is like making sure that you don't do it again, because that's how that's how he defines sleep, is learning from your mistakes. I don't know if that's true for you because you have sleep savior. Is that true for you? Like you're very good at learning from your mistakes, or you're still an EP and you're still like, falling on a
Yeah,
cliff.
so it depends on the mistake. If it's an SF mistake, nah, I don't really learn. So I feel like if it's an NF mistake, I will,
Really? Can you
you
can
know?
you elaborate like the difference?
Well, yeah, I can elaborate. I like this
Okay, what's
is
that?
like a consume habit. It's a vape.
Oh, vape. Okay.
Whereas like rationally, I know it's not healthy for me. I know it costs money. I have all these reasons why I should stop, but I keep picking it up. Like, what's the deal with that?
Do
And
you?
so like whenever you investigate that and you go like, why do I do things I don't want to do? Remember we talked about this in our last interview. I was like, I actually think I can change and become different and not do the things that I always do.
Yeah.
And you were like, maybe. Sounds like a challenge. And I was like, well, I guess we'll see. Well, a lot of things I could change and a lot of things I haven't figured it out.
Yeah.
Like the hardest part, and I wrote this in the Facebook group one time, is like when it's my own hand, I don't know how to get out of that control. I know how to get out of like my wife's control
Yeah.
or my parents' control. I know the right thing to do. I don't know how to get out of my own control. So those are the kind of struggles that I have as a sleep savior is like you pick up bad habits and you can't put them down because you like how they feel. At
Oh,
least SF sleep.
yeah, that's cool that you're mentioning that. I'm listening to an audiobook right now. It's called The Courage to be Disliked. And there's a chapter, and I'm gonna paraphrase this, so this is not exactly what the person is saying. It's like a lot of people who are doing things that's harming themselves or self-sabotage, pretty much, they're getting something out of it. So it's like you logically say to yourself, I don't want to do this anymore because it's harming me, or it's not serving me. But you're getting something out of this, so you're not gonna stop doing it. Like it's actually your goal to continue to self-sabotage subconsciously,
Yeah. Yeah.
even though you're like, that's not my goal. How could that be the goal? Why would I want to self-sabotage myself? Like, you're getting something out of it.
Yeah, that's why I kind of agree with David in the sense that like I feel like the saviors are kind of overrated and that they don't actually accomplish what they say they're going to accomplish.
Yeah.
Like if my sleep was actually going to restore me, then I would feel better and I wouldn't have to keep doing all these
Wait.
bad sleep behaviors. You get what I mean? Whereas your sleep, you can be like, these none of these things worked. I just won't do them anymore. You
No,
know,
no.
but I can't.
Did Dave said that's your first animal though, not your second savior? Because I feel like your second and third animal is kind of more balanced because they're in the middle. Because you have sleep and play, right?
I think in my case, because I have double FI in both of my saviors,
Yeah,
it's this like no matter which one I pick, it has masculine FI, and masculine FI is a bad dude.
yeah, I can relate.
Yeah,
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 the masculine FI is your worst enemy in a way. Maybe worse for savior FI. I'm curious now. I feel like when I use my FI, because I have it as a demon, I feel like it's actually helping me more. I don't
yeah. I
know.
wanted to ask you the same thing about TE. Interestingly enough,
My
because
T is
I
feminine.
just fascinated.
Okay, dude, I think it's because my T is feminine. So even though in a savior state, it's like I don't care. As like it's so flexible that I don't care. It's not like my FI where it's like stubborn. So yours is stubborn and a savior state, right? Mine's stubborn but demon state. So it's like um it's more open to getting updated, I guess, because it's in
Hmm.
the demon state. Because it's like when something's in a demon state, you don't have complete confidence in it, like even the blind confidence, right? So it's like I'm open. There's an openness to updating it. Well, where else when you have it in a savior state, that openness might not be there because it's in a savior state.
What it reminds me of what you text or like messaged me right before the call that like you had this stuff and you were just out of town. And it's like, I'm a sleep savior. If that had happened to me, I would not have scheduled an interview with me. I would have been like, no, I'm not really available right now. Like, let's hit me up in a few days. I'm like resting right now.
Yeah.
Like sleep savior is like, I come first. Like I wouldn't have even probably responded for a few days. So that I want you to see that like having sleep low is actually like pretty OP. I think. I think it's the best last animal.
Is it the best? Yeah, you know what? Yes, I like my last animal actually. I like it. I like it for the most part. I don't like the like I don't know if you saw my videos where I show the dimensions of each of your animals, but like um when I did my self-assessment, I don't know if you saw my video where I did my self-assessment, like my SF sleep last journey. I don't know if you saw that one. But like check it
I don't
out.
think
Check it
so.
out.
Not off the top of my head.
Yeah, I would I'll just check it out. I'll send you the link and watch it.
Sure.
I go deep dive into my SF sleep last journey. But like um dude, oh my God, I'm like so annoyed. I lost my train of thought. I still have SI at the bottom like you, man. It's like
Yeah, dude.
it's so annoying. Um but dude, oh my God, it's gone. It's so annoying. I hate it. Freaking SI at the bottom. Um but
And I know like we can just laugh at it. There's nothing to do.
no, I know it's gonna come back in like 5 to 10 minutes. So I'll just have to wait. That's usually what happens.
Well, but for all the people that watch the video that aren't save your intuition, they don't realize that this is what it's like.
Yeah, no, it's so no, yours is worse because yours happened
It's
several times.
definitely
Oh, this
worse.
is the first time it happened to me, but it still happens because it's still in the bottom, right? Um, but what was I saying with this shit? Now I'm so annoyed, I don't remember. But oh yeah, so I still did it for me. So this is not has anything to do with the stuff I just mentioned though, with like um the video I was making about myself. But like the FI thing. Okay, so you said that if it was in your case, you would not respond for 3 days or more. You would relax first, get your energy recharged before you would do the interview, right? Or something
Yeah,
like that,
because
right?
you should get the best version of me. And the best version of me is one who's not all grumpy and jet lagged and annoyed and would rather not be doing this right now.
Yeah,
Right? The best version of me is the one who's happy and chipper and in a good mood and is ready to like fuck this interview up with you. Like, whereas if I neglected my sleep, I would be grumpy. And what I'm saying, I guess, when I say saviors kind of suck, is I say, man, what a handicap that is. Why do I do that to myself? Why wouldn't I just respond sooner? But it's just, we just do it because we're weird. Like, why? The worst one for me, and we may have even talked about this 2 years ago because I've never figured it out. Like, it's the biggest hang up I have
yeah,
is like, if my kid says, I want to do this with you, I just go, like, oh, no. And it's like, why do I even have to battle that? What kind of weird thing do I got to reprogram
yeah,
in here to be like, my kid wants to do it? Yeah, dude, me too. Like what's going on? Why can't it like automatically work that way? And it's like you want to be able to just force stuff, but unfortunately, like at least how I see it, my cake is already baked, man. I can't go back and be like, this the ingredients are all messed up. Like, no, I
you
gotta learn how
can.
to be a dad as this guy.
Yeah.
So
Well, you can. It's just gonna be harder because it's in savior state. It's unconscious, so it's harder, right? Like mine is
I just gotta listen to Cats in the Cradle every day and then be like, cry about how my kids won't love me anymore. And then maybe, nah, but see, that to me is like manipulating myself. Like, if I want to do it, I'll do it. And but it's like, how do I get myself to want to do stuff?
so you have to David Goggins it then. It's
And I
like,
want to know, what do you do? Because you have demon FI, right? So in theory, you have the opposite thing. You have the guy messaging you that says, hey, can we do an interview? And I haven't talked to you in 2 years.
yeah,
And you're like, yeah, it's a tribe. Let's fucking go. And then
yeah.
you don't even think about your needs and that you just got back from your
I did think about my
flight. I know you did, but you kind of,
no, but
I
okay, dude. Okay, okay. Let me share my perspective on this, okay? Because
yeah.
maybe you'll get some insight. So you message me, and I'm like, great. This is content for me for this week. That's just one less video I have to make. Because for me, play is my default, right? So for me, it's like I'm saving energy if I do this interview. I know it sounds crazy, but like I'm saving energy because play is my first animal. Keep in mind, right? So I can do it all day long. It doesn't use that much energy at all. Like play for me is like nothing. It is
How
nothing.
long do you take before you act on it? Because I thought about messaging you for about 3 or 4 days before I did it.
You messaged me like freaking in the middle of the night, and then I responded to you right
Yeah, I
away.
know.
And then
I know, but I'm saying like I thought about it for 3 or 4 days before that. like whether I should message you to do an interview and like what
And
you
then,
would say and like what you like those kind of things. Like the sleep was happening before, you know what I mean? Like I was already like decided I wanted to do it.
oh, so you're asking when I decide when I want to do something? Is that like how long it takes for me to act on it? Is that what you're asking me? Or
In a sense, but like to put it another way, I like probably 3 or 4 hours before this was like, all right, I got to get up and take a shower and
yeah,
do all this stuff because I got to be not prepared. Like I didn't like write a bunch of shit down, but like I gotta like put my best foot forward, and that requires all of this stuff that I have to do. So
right,
I like I don't know, I like made it a whole thing, and I'm also thinking that like, well, in theory, Kendrick wouldn't have those same hangups. He'd probably just throw on whatever shirt and just like show up because he's got SF last, right? Whereas I was like, are these headphones too flexy? What do I do? And you're like, they're pink, and so
yeah.
those are kind of the things I run into because I don't overthink, but I like overfeel. It's like I like it, and I don't know if I should like make myself look bad by like I'm looking at all these different. There's like the like feeling and the not wanting to get rejected feeling and the like all of those different things
Yeah.
coming into play. And it's like I got to be the boss that's like, no, 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 we're just gonna decide. It's
I
hard
think
though.
I think I'm because like for me, I've had my channel for a long time and people know what my style is and whatnot. So um, like and my background used to be a lot worse long time ago. Like it was so bad before, like my lighting and everything. Like now I have a pretty decent setup, like it looks decent. So for me it's like um I don't have to overthink what the SF is. And in terms of like the shirt and stuff, it's whatever. Like as long as I don't look like crap, it's fine.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
didn't mean it to come across like you look like shit. Like I'm wearing a black t-shirt just like you. I
yeah.
just mean to be like, I also walked around my house and like tried a bunch of different places to see like, would it look okay here? Would it look okay here? And I was like trying these headphones, trying those headphones
No, but
because I feel like the sensory is important.
no, I get what you're saying, but the thing is, you don't do the interview as much as I do, right? So for me, I have a setup already, so I don't have to
Hmm.
do what you're doing and test different locations first. I
Like
have,
you just got that all out. Yeah, you did this. You did it
I
one time.
yeah, I got my map here, I got my box lights here, I got my little like microphone here. So I have like all my setup already. It's been established for like 2 years at least in this specific place, right? So it's like everything is already in place. I just have to sit down here and turn on the Zoom. And also,
Ooh.
there was someone else that I was interviewing that had a similar question as you, but like instead of SF, it was like more like the ST, where like the person was asking me, it's like, when I go on an interview, I have to think about it for like weeks or like days at least, right? I think it was actually Uzair that said this. I think it was Uzair that said this. And then for
Okay.
me, I was like, and then he was like, but like for you, I feel like if a guy messages you 15 minutes ago, you would just turn it on and start going with no preparation. And you would still crank out something that's decent. Just because you do it all the time. And when you do something all the time, it's just like it's there with you. You don't have to charge up to it. It's there with
Hmm.
you. And I think for me, like I was coaching someone a few days ago, and this guy was an EP also, and he was asking me for some advice on like how to produce better as an EP because he is also working on his own project and he wants to blast and he's blast last. And what I told him is like, as an EP, if you're getting coaching or some kind of help for anybody or even helping yourself, you only have one goal: remove distraction. That's it. That is the only goal as an EP. If you want to go from point A to point B, is to remove distraction because you're gonna want to channel change, right? So if you have a mentor, a coach, your wife, your parents, your friends, whoever is holding you accountable, there's only one thing. They only have one job, and that's to remove the distraction from you. That is the only thing. So, and for me as an EP, as an ENFP specifically, that has to build up my YouTube channel because this is my dream is to be a YouTuber, right? Like full time. Um, at the very start, before I even started my channel, like I already knew that my default video that I produce cannot use SI because if it uses SI, I'm not going to be able to be consistent. I'm gonna be
Like
distracted.
having a bunch of lower thirds and terms and all that shit popping up. Like, what
Yeah,
do you mean by SI?
so
Props?
when I make explainer videos, they're extremely hard to do, even though people prefer them that I make them. Like from when if you look at my stats, the stats are a lot higher when I make explainer videos. They get more views, they get more engagement, they get more likes, they get more comments, shares,
ENFPs
everything,
are great explainers.
everything is a lot higher. But they use so much SI, and Dave was talking in the classes that you still have a hardware built on you as a specific type. And if you go against your hardware too much, you're gonna shut down. You're gonna short circuit pretty much. You know what I mean? So when I first started this channel, I already knew if I had to do something SI as my default, and it's the kind of video that I produce right from the start, then my audience is going to expect me to produce those kind of videos as my default also. So right from the start, I wanted to have my audience be used to me doing interviews, because interviews is play. It for us ENFPs, it doesn't touch SI. It's literally NETE. That's like it has a lot of capacity for usage, just like consume. I have consume demon. It's my third animal. I can do it all day long, even though it's a freaking demon, because the container for the NF consume is so huge. You know, I consume so much. I have consumed demon, right? So like not as much as you, of course, but like but it's still a lot. It's still a
But it's
lot.
good because you're not consuming as much garbage as I am. Because that's what I guess I want to say is that like the saviors are like kind of garbage collectors, and you should look out and see what other people are
Yes,
like avoiding.
yes, definitely. I've seen you guys with the blast last especially doing this, because for me, there's always a part of me that when I'm consuming something, it either needs to have utility, or my FI sees it like,
Of course, it should, but I'll put on anything or stuff I already know I shouldn't watch.
yeah, yeah, or my FI is like really on board. It's like, fuck yes, I really want to consume this, and like I know I'm gonna get an FI benefit, not an ST benefit. That's still good for me. So like, but it has to be like, I'm not gonna go to Netflix and someone recommended like a TV show for me to watch. I'm not gonna watch it, okay? Because like,
No, I never do that shit either.
yeah, or like if there's like, I don't know, like I just won't fall into the pit of like I have breaks for my consume, like natural breaks. I know you guys don't have this, like the consume blast last people. Like I know you guys don't have this because um
And my brain is literally reading the map behind you. It never stops.
yeah,
It's looking about how cool all the like raised stuff is and
yeah,
just
yeah, it's super
yeah.
cool. Super cool. But like for me, if I consume too much, you know what happens? There is like
Mm.
a voice in my head that's saying, "Hey, if you don't stop consuming, you're gonna be a loser." You know, like SF sleep loss, right? You're gonna be a
Oh,
fucking loser. Okay. Your dream is to be a big personality YouTuber. And that channel is not gonna build itself with you sitting here consuming shit. Okay, unless like even if it's shit that like is related to what you want to do. There is only one way to grow your channel, and that's to blast.
I'm learning something with Blast too because it's like I don't actually know if any of my advice is good until I give it and then people use it. And if they I get data two ways. Whether people listen to me or not is its own data. And then those that do, whether it helped them or not. And so I get to know about certain people based off, well, did this person take my advice or not? And if they did it serve them or not? And I get to get feedback on my blast, like how I'm teaching or how I'm coming across because I feel like blast fundamentally is like kind of like herding cats or something like that. You're kind of chirping at the tribe, trying to
Yeah,
get them to do. It's like whenever your kids are yelling in the other room, but you don't want to get out of bed, and you're like, ah, stop it.
right.
Like I feel like at a core level, that's why I don't blast, is because I think I don't like it. I don't want to be hollered at from the other room. So I don't want to do that to somebody else, right? Like come walk up to me and treat me with respect. And so I don't like if I'm gonna blast, what I guess I'm trying to say is if I'm gonna blast, I want to be sure it's worth telling you and that it's not said in a way that's going to come across like that. Because I wouldn't want someone to do that to me. It's like, the golden rule or
Why,
whatever.
why why don't you ask for permission first then? Why don't you just be like, hey, can I give you some advice if you don't mind? You know, like why don't you do that first instead of like,
I don't even think about that kind of stuff. I
really?
just think about the relational equity game.
but there is relational.
Like, I don't know you at all. I can't give you any advice, but I know my brother, and I can probably say, if you read this book, it'd really help you. But I also know he won't actually read it. You know what I mean? Like, I have various things I know about these people and like how I can interact with them based off, I guess, the SI history.
Well, okay, that's an interesting take for sure.
But because, like, what am I gonna blast to you? Here's the way I would say it, because I said it in the group, so I already remember. Is like when I was growing up, I would never give people compliments, and I often wouldn't even receive their compliments because I had a disparity between what I thought was like, if you didn't know anything about it, then why should you say? It was like, I don't think I was right, so I can't like defend it. But like
Okay.
the way that I would think is like, I don't know anything about writing sermons, so I shouldn't go say good sermon. I don't know anything about making graphic art, so I shouldn't tell this guy he did a good job making the graphic art. That could have taken him 5 seconds or whatever. Right? Like I felt like if I didn't have context or information,
Yeah.
I should like withhold. And I didn't like when people did it to me either. Like people will come up to me and say like whatever stuff, and I'm like, you don't even know me. How are you gonna come say that my work is like incredible? Like you literally just walked up to me. So I never like kind of liked that um like why are you telling me what to do? Like I don't even know you. Or like what would
What if they ask you for permission first? It's like, hey, Lucas, can I give you some feedback? You know, like you would probably be open to it if they ask you that.
yeah, for sure, for sure,
Yeah.
sure.
So if you know that yourself, why don't you do it to someone else then? Because then you can just do the same thing, right? It's like, hey, you cool getting some feedback from me? So it's not bad, you know. It's and most people would say, yeah, you know what?
Well, can I run you through a little scenario that I just did and you can
Sure,
be like, well, you could have done it better or worse? I
sure,
was talking to my mom on the phone last night and I'm pretty sure she's Savior Blast, but I don't think it really matters for the conversation.
yeah,
I was just talking to her and she kept like basically like for years and years I would like get frustrated with this one thing. And so last night I was like, I'm gonna try something. I'm just gonna be like, you're teaching me again. Stop it
yeah,
and see what she does. And she was like, "Oh, yeah, you're right. Sorry." And then she like let me talk for a while. You know, like I know you told me all this stuff 20 years ago. I learned it when I was your kid.
yeah.
So you should like learn new stuff from me. I'm teaching you all this cool far out new stuff that I learned from the hippies.
You said that to your mom?
Like I don't need to also know that, all this stuff you told me since I was 5. Like I already know that.
You said that to your mom?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, that's the right thing to do. You did it. You did the right thing. Fuck yes. You get my stamp of
Cool. Cool. That's
approval.
what I was curious is like, should you be like that forthright or is that Lucas, no, you should be a little more careful. Like you don't want to like be too uh I don't know, because I think there's got to be a line, right, between like being.
Yeah, but you're a double decider, dude. You'll know if you cross the line and you can course correct after. So it's not like a big deal. You know what I mean? You can always
Usually, what I do is I just cut whatever tone of voice I was using, and I go back to talking like a joker.
yeah, but you can always course correct, right? And also like the other thing that you said earlier about like risk like is this person gonna listen to me or not? And, like a lot of that is like, do they have buy-in with you or not, right? And honestly, dude, this is gonna be the most
That's kind
annoying.
of what I meant earlier with emotional equity, like buy-in. Like, does this person even
Yeah,
care what I
but
say?
but but what you said that if you told your brother advice on like what book to read, he still probably won't read it, even though you
No, he
know
wouldn't.
exactly. So that tells you that um you don't have as much buy-in with your brother as you think, you know?
Well, it's not that I don't have as much buy-in with my brothers as I think. I have exactly as much as I think because I call him out on it all the time. He'll be
Yeah.
like, "Hey, check out this podcast." I'll be like, "You read that book yet?" So I just
Oh, you're doing it to
fool
mock him?
around with him.
Oh, you're doing it
Yeah,
oh, you're doing it to mess around with him. I see. Gotcha. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay.
his brother
Um,
stuff.
yeah, brother stuff. Yeah, no, that's fair. But like also earlier when you were asking me about like, you know, like you messaged me just like a few hours ago and then we did the interview right away. Um, you know, like for me, like, you know, my FI was just thinking, I'm like, oh, great. I feel recharged because I'm jet lag and I slept because I'm sleep last, right? I sleep best after my flight, right? Then that's like actually the most time I'm most recharged is like going to sleep after a flight because like sleep last people we are messed up. We cannot sleep when it's been like a good day and nothing bad, nothing much happened. We have to be at a burned out state to sleep well. It's so messed up, right? um and like a lot of sleep last people have the same issue, you know. So
Mhm.
yes, so now I knew that if we did an interview right now, I would be the most freshest, happiest, cheerful that I could be because I would have slept from after doing like a, you know, two flights. Like I did two flights together, which is 12 hours long, plus like waiting in the airport for 3 hours for connection, right? So I was like what, like traveling plus like taxi to the airport and stuff, waiting in the airport also. So like I was like what, 20
Tough.
hours at least, right? Yeah. So I knew when I passed out yesterday that when I wake up, I'll be like so fresh and like so it's not like I'm not using my FISI, but I think also the difference between us is like when you said like earlier, it's like, oh, you would have waited 3 days because you wanted to be fully recharged. Also, for me, it's like um like, but you're not doing YouTube or anything, but like for me as a YouTuber, it's just like more content the better, especially if it's content that is um easier for me to make, such as interviews. I can do interviews all day. So it's like, because if I don't do interviews, I would have to make some shorts, right? Or something. Because I have daily content now, right? So it's like, which is not bad because earlier also when we're talking about like, if you have to do something consistent for a long time and uses your SI, you're gonna crash and burn, right? Kind of like what David Chan said about like, like using your fourth function too much is gonna make you crash and burn. So you kind of wanna, you still wanna practice it, but you need to know when to like ease up and know like, I'm gonna shut down if I keep doing it. So, but you also want to train it too, right? Like I don't know, like Pokemon, right? Obviously. So like
Hmm.
I saw this one Pokemon episode where like they went to this like gym and then I forgot which episode. It was like the original Pokemon series. And like
Hmm.
there was this rock Pokemon that was like diving in water and jumping back out. I don't know if you remember that episode, but like, and then
No, it's not.
and then I think like Ash and like his buddies Brock and like Misty were saying like this Pokemon trainer is abusive. He's making his rock Pokemon go in the water, because a rock's weak to water, right? For those who don't
Hmm.
know, but like, and like that always stuck with me because I was like, oh my god, you always should expose yourself to like your weakness. For us is SI, right? Like if you expose yourself to it daily, it's like nowhere near as bad. And then like I saw that episode of Pokemon where like that rock Pokemon fought a water Pokemon and they shot him with like water gun, whatever, and like he barely got damaged, right? And
Exactly, because that's the lesson.
yeah, and that's like the lesson,
Yeah.
right? So for me, I'm like, okay, so for me, I'm like, okay, I have to practice SI almost daily. So I make those YouTube shorts every day, right? And now it's like it used to take me 8 hours to make one of those YouTube shorts. Now I can do it in like 1 or 2 hours, right? Or sometimes even 30 minutes. So it's like, oh, the SI does get better to the point where
Hmm.
it's like less triggering. It never stops being triggering, but it's less triggering. You know what I mean?
I think it does stop being triggering. You just
Really?
lose awareness of it and it just becomes part of the rest of life. Like you're not triggered by putting your shirt on, right? You just kind of figured it out at some point and you just don't worry about it. I think
Oh,
it's like
okay.
that.
I see I see what you're saying. Okay, maybe triggering is not the word. It's still annoying, but it's not triggering. It's still annoying. Like it could still be a nuisance. Like going to the gym, for example. Like I've been working out for 10 years. I hate going to the gym. Like I work as a personal trainer for 10 years and I hate going to the gym, right?
Well, that's one of the things I think might be better. I don't want to say better, but might be advantageous because I feel like masculine SI has a lot of clear advantages over feminine SI. But masculinity might have that one little one, which I feel like I said, after 4 or 5 times, I would get into it and I would want to continue the pattern and I would update it and I would be like, this is what I want to do. This is my new, like, I've observed this pattern 5, 6 times. Like, any is like, yeah, let's go, baby. Like, I no longer have problems with whatever we're doing.
Can you elaborate how that is like? I'm trying to wrap my head around it. So how does the masculine NI still sees it as a problem when the masculine NE doesn't? Like I'm just curious. Like
Because I think masculine NE comes with feminine SI, and so at least for me, and I think a lot of other people, we kind of move like swiftly and like fluidly, and so like you kind of start dancing, and it's more fun. Like once you stop being like in your head about the details that you were fucking up. I'm sorry, I tell her I keep cussing. I'm sorry you don't want this on your channel, but it's
no, you can
like
swear.
there's
Oh,
like that's one of my details.
no,
I keep messing it up.
I encourage people to swear. So go swear.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
So
go ahead.
cool. Yeah, it's like I wanna like get the detail. I'm gonna just use the wrench example of like, oh, you got your wrench on you, Lucas. So it's like, I gotta go back and get it from my toolbox.
Yeah.
Like it's the 30th time. How have you not learned? But then at some point, I never have to think about it again. I always have it. So you're like, well, no, I always have to think about it. So it's always a little bit annoying. And it's like, no, not for me. My brain goes, have you ever done this thing where you're leaving the house and you're like
Yeah,
that?
I always do that. Yeah.
Okay, it's the same thing. You just know you don't have to like think. or do any work. It's just like I got my wrench because you just know. Like you can feel if your shoes are tied, that kind of thing.
Oh, you're very confident in your intuition. That everything's okay. That everything's
I
okay.
guess.
No, because
That's not how I would have said it, but yeah, that's probably what I'm saying.
no, because like if you look at what NE is, right? It's looking at future possibilities, right? And if it's masculine NE, it's you're confident at the future possibility, especially if it's in the savior state, then it's positive future possibilities. Unlike the ISTJs or ISFJs, they have it at the bottom and they see negative future possibilities, right?
Mhm.
So I think for you, based on what you're saying, it sounds like you see only good future possibilities, or mostly future good possibility, and with a lot of confidence because it's masculine NE. While I have feminine NE, so it's like, oh, I'm unsure about what's gonna happen in the future. Like I can see what's gonna happen, but I'm unsure if that's gonna happen. But I can see it, but I'm unsure. So it's like it's like that annoying game I'm playing. Um, and then I just go back to the SI because that's what's confident, right? But my SI telling me that last time I did this, I lost my keys, so I had to check my pocket. So yeah, okay, I see what's going on now. Uh, yeah, but
Yeah,
that could also be a trap though, because like if you get the SI wrong, you know, then you're really screwed, right? With the
that's true for a savior too. Like
yeah,
what I think about with that kind of stuff, I don't remember if Dave said this or if I figured it out
yeah,
myself, but that basically like people who have demon SI are going to be better at creating organizing systems than people that have savior SI, but the
yeah,
savior SI is going to be tremendously better at maintaining it.
yeah, yes,
Like
yes,
you
yes,
like I leave my toolbox messy all the time, but once every 2 or 3 days I'll clean it back up. My ISTJ coworkers, they take it out of that spot, they put it right back in that spot. And it's like, wow, that's impressive in its own way,
yeah. No,
you
that
know?
that is
And I
that
can
is
really
impressive. Yeah,
respect that.
yeah. No, that makes so much sense. Actually, that's so good. That's so good. Um, it it almost makes sense that you need to have someone with demon SI to draft the system, and then that's the one with savior is to keep it going because and fine tune it obviously as time goes. But it's good that the demon does it because the demon SI person knows what's necessary, so we don't go overboard,
Yeah.
right? So you allocate the correct resources to this
A
thing, right?
perfect example of this is Walt Disney. Like he was very meticulous about the way that his parks were and like laid out and like how they hid all the stuff from the
Did
guests.
they type
He
him?
didn't want, yeah, he's typed. He's an ENTP.
Walt Disney is an ENTP.
Yeah, you go look it up on the database. He's not a class type, but he's a database type.
Is he standard ENTP or demon?
Yeah, standard. But I
He's
don't
a,
know the full like. Don't like quiz me on the.
yeah,
I just know that like since he's an ENTP, he's gonna have that demon SI, and he's double feminine. I do remember that part of the code. So it's like if he's double feminine and he's got ENTP, then that
yeah,
means the very end he's gonna have a feminine SI like me, but his is going to be applied towards FE instead of TE, and he's not going to be trying to fix other people's problems. He's going to be trying to set the mood. You know, he's going to be trying to make it
yeah.
seem like you're actually in the jungle or whatever.
Yeah, no, that's
Whereas to
really
me and you, that can kind of be like, but like we all know we're not really in the jungle. What's the point of that extra effort? But to Walt Disney, it was like, no, dude, like I want to like trick these people.
that's why
He really cared.
that's why the TE of Disneyland sucks because you have to line up for like 1 hour for one ride. The TE is like shit, right? Because they
Mm,
didn't work on the TE, they work on the
no, I didn't.
the FE. So you
The
they get the
FE.
vibe. You get the vibe right, but not is it working for everyone right? You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
I always feel like the people at F and T need to work together. It's like you need both. You can't just have TE because
I
in the
think
vibe,
they're good cross-check validators too, because I feel like the FE is capable of validating FI
yeah.
and TE is capable of validating TI.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
like a TI can come to you with a problem or like an idea that like to them makes sense. Like my brother's TI, and so it's like it makes sense to him. But I've heard this same kind of idea. To me, it's just another TE.
Yeah.
To him, he's like it's kind of probably the same with feelings. Like to me, to like an FE, I'm just another mommy wound. But to me, it's my problems, right? So it's like it's probably the same with TI in that sense of like he's uh like thinking that like I'm like in these thoughts and I gotta like go to these other people and like get their help with the feelings because like my thoughts are out of control. And
Yeah.
so yeah, that's what my brother has talked to me about a few times, and I just don't relate. Like if I have bad feelings, I might say something to my wife like I'm a bit sad today, but I'm not gonna make the whole day about that.
yeah, but I've also seen the drawback of TE and FE also. So where like the introvert function is still important, you know? Like for example with the FE, like I've seen a lot of FE people, it's for them it's like, are you happy or sad? Because like if you feel better, that's good enough. But for like FI, it's like, no, we need to understand the root cause of this emotion, why we're having this emotional issue, right? But like with the with the FE, it's like, no, you feel good, you're good, you know? But then with the TE, it's like, it works. What's the problem? But the TI is like, no, 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 no. This is inefficient. Okay. It's not the right, it's dirty, it's not clean, like the way like like the nuts and bolts or whatever. It's not gonna work.
Right. And
So
this happens to me at my work all the time, which is something I noticed as soon as I got there. I was trying to use TE, like, well, couldn't I just do it like this? And they're like, no.
yeah,
We
no.
have a bunch of other dumbasses like you asking that same question, and we have 10 years of evidence that that will not work. This is the
Yes.
way we do it, and this is how you're going to do it. Go do it like that.
Yeah.
Quit trying to cheat.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah.
It's like, we've already done this. We have a bunch of TIs around here,
Yeah, no, that's why we
and
need
we've
to
already
work
banged
together.
them.
We need to work together because otherwise, there's time and place when the FITI is superior. There's a time and place when FETE is superior. So for sure. Last thing I want to talk about in this interview before we wrap this up, social types, dude. You're number four.
Yeah.
Pretty obvious to me. Like when you said you're number four, I'm like, no one's ever gonna argue with you. You're not a number four. You're like, dude, you are so friendly. I've interviewed a lot of ENFPs and it's so interesting to me where I've interviewed like even like the jumper ones who are like very like unfriendly for like a like an ENFP. You would think like the old Myers-Briggs stereotype for ENFPs like, oh, like a butter, like what is it, like a what's it, like a butterfly or some shit or whatever, like friendly and stuff, like but
Yeah.
like there's like ENFPs are assholes, right? Like legit like like unfriendly assholes
For sure.
because they have demon friends, right? You know um and like there's like but like not all ENFPs with demon friends are unfriendly also. It's kind of tricky, right? It depends on like it's kind of like earlier before we started the interview, I was asking you which sexual modality you're related to the most, right? Because like you can still relate to a specific one personally, right? Especially if it's in the middle. So I want to ask you first, life. What life is like being save your friends, but demon flex.
Okay, so I feel like it's something like I I don't always think about who I hang out with.
Yeah.
Like, is this guy a good influence or a bad influence? So you could say I don't pick my friends.
Yeah.
So that's probably one of the drawbacks of save your friends. And then the inverse would also be that like you have demon flex, which means that you're not, at least if we trust the system the way we understand it with functions, then we should be able to cross apply it and be like, well, then that suggests that I'm not wanting and that it's gonna bubble up like a boil, just like my SI does. And
Okay.
one of these days I'm gonna be like, why does nobody take me seriously? What the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
And like when you become aware of that, like what do you do? Like, do I like try to like what do you like? I guess I get the point and the like utility and the funness of them, but I feel like they need more fleshing out so that they can be applied better. Because I don't really understand good applications for how to use the social types in my own life, whereas the functions I can see all the time everywhere. Like I'm sure you're the same way.
No, for me, I see the social types super clear, man. Like the social types is it's um the utility of it is as clear as the animals from my perspective. Like for example, for me, I'm a number two, right? So I have demon specialization, right? So in the past, I used to do a lot of sloppy work, especially in my first YouTube channel, my travel one. I so I learned that like one high quality video can have a lot more benefit for my channel than a bunch of crappy one that I cranked out, that I pulled out of my butt, you know. And I used to have a travel blog also, and I know when I made a blog post that was shit, I just did it because I needed an article on this country that I was traveling to, versus like I traveled to a country I really love and I put my FI into it, and it was like a good article. It was actually a good article. I think there's definitely argument to be made that when you do something you don't want, it's still good because you got the practice in.
Yeah,
Um,
well, this is the best evidence I've ever heard for like the like reality of the saviors and demons because my life is completely backwards from what you just said in the sense that like the FI is like an annoying, overbearing. It has to be satisfied, and only if I can like negotiate something with FI will it capitulate to TE.
Oh,
Like
I
my
see.
kids want to go do that, I don't feel like it, so you're gonna have to like convince me, right? Like that. And I don't want to be doing that, but I observe myself doing that. And I think that's I tie that in with my sleep. Like I don't want to be inconvenienced or uncomfortable or
Yeah.
bothered by things that I'm not like so it's like if I want to consume sleep and my kids want to go play blast, like parenting is pretty much all play blast. Like if you're consume sleeping with your kids, what are you doing? So I should just be doing it more and better.
So do you feel guilty doing that then? That you have to satisfy the FI first before you can play with the tribe?
Well, I used to feel guilty, but then I realized that that guilt didn't do anything. It was just like an ops themed version of guilt that I didn't need to, or like a parenting themed version of guilt. And if guilt's always unproductive, which is my view,
so, but then you still
then
didn't.
I
But you still didn't like that you were doing that though. So what did you replace guilt with then? Like you just did it? Like you just did the right thing? Like you
pragmatism. No, I just don't feel bad whenever I make mistakes.
no, I mean like for example, your kids want to play blast, but then you want to consume
Mhm.
sleep, right? So this is not like a mistake thing, it's like a preference thing, right? So how do you override your FI then so that you can do what the kids want? You know what I mean?
So that's the question. I actually have still not figured that out as like a on command thing, which is why I want to like get to know better like how it seems to be for you because like I always have this like you probably don't, which would make sense if the math works, which we believe it does. It's
Yeah.
like you should be able to like if I'm always trying to understand, like you see me standing or sitting here active listening the whole time, and you're like, he's super friendly. That's what that like I feel reflects on me is that I am a good validator. Like I'm really good at understanding what someone is saying and being like, yeah, that makes sense. And then the other person has that relief of like, oh, I'm not crazy. Like because I gave them that demon TE. Like I was like, you know what? I thought about that too, and yeah, that is some dumb shit. You
Yeah.
know, they don't need me to tell them FI stuff. Like, my favorite flower is this. It's like, why was that going to help? You know, so I feel like I want to know like what's a healthy version of FI look like. Like I like how you were like I was happy to have an opportunity to do an interview because then that saved me this other time.
Yeah.
That would be the equivalent of me saying I was happy that Kindred canceled the interview so I could sleep more.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
I don't know, man. I mean, like, I have other problems being demon FI, like I have that voice that like I'm not allowed in my head a lot of times, right? Like I'm still a double decider, so it's not as bad as like the ESTJs or ENTJs, right? But that voice is still there. Like a lot of times I want to do something, especially something that's related to self-expression, but I'm not allowed. There's a voice, which is stupid because why can't I just do it? But I can't. Like I need to try permission first. I mean, I found a way
Yeah,
to
it's like an
hack.
insecurity thing. I think it's the same as what I said about blasting. I don't know enough. You're like, can I really like express this, or is it gonna like send this signal to the tribe that's not intended or whatever,
Yeah,
right?
maybe. I don't know. I don't know if it's a signal thing, but it's like I don't know, man. It's like
Like,
uh,
what's so scary about self-expression?
like the only thing I can think of is like um if you look at like everyone's archetype, at the core of it, we're doing what we're doing so we can survive, right? That's like, if you look at the caveman days, right? Like you're a self-above tribe because if you took the resources for yourself first, you're gonna live. Because if you shared it with someone, there might not be enough to go around and you could die, right? So if you were selfish, you took it first, then you're gonna survive, right? And then for me, being tribe of selves, if I share, um, then the tribe sees me as valuable and I'm gonna survive because ultimately the thing that nobody wants is to get kicked out of the tribe because you get kicked out of the tribe, then you are gonna die in the the caveman days, you're gonna get killed by a wild animal or something, right? So
Well, the thing you
uh,
tell yourself as FI is you're like, well, I'll just find a different tribe. Like, you're like, well, these people don't like me, or these people don't understand me, or this girl's not the
I,
right one for me, but this other one must, Plato's form, like, understanding me must exist. And that was the thing I fell for the longest time. I was, I just was like, this thing has to be out there and I have to be able to find it.
yeah.
And that just was a delusion.
Well, I mean, we're both double deciders, so at the end of the day, we're gonna be okay in this aspect, right? Like every time, like as a DE, one of the things I struggle with is resentment, right? Like I get so annoyed, like why is my DI friend so selfish and so self-absorbed? And like, I have a friend, like my other he's giving all my friends grief right now because I came back in Canada just for 6 weeks, right? And I'm gonna go travel again, right? Um, and so I'm only here for 6 weeks. So I'm like, hey, let's get the gang together and um let's hang out, let's play video games, whatever. And this guy, my friend, is consumed last, and it's hard for us to get him out. To He's the number three also, so he's like demon friends. So it's hard for us to get him out because he's demon friends. He's also a specialist, and he just wants to work on his specialization. Um, and he's consumed last, so he doesn't want to consume like video games and stuff, And he's demon friends. But I also know because he's an IJ, like once we get him to a routine of coming out, he'll keep doing it. He loves it. Actually, and he becomes normal because he goes batshit crazy when he's left alone for too long, right? So it's actually good for him
My
mentally.
wife's like that.
Yeah, but because he's consumed last, he's unaware that this is happening to him. Completely unaware, Like he has demon NF. He's like ICJ, right? So NF last, right? Like he doesn't know his vibe. He doesn't know what's going on, like emotionally with him, right? You know, like so. Like my ISTP friend, I have a friend. He's an ISTP. He's like consume, play, blast, sleep, number three. But because he has FE, he derives joy from people. So even that's why I've always seen like the middle social type is kind of like you could use your third one a lot is what I'm trying to say, so my friend I
Especially ENTPs, dude. All the ENTPs I know or have ever known are like so free with the compliments. They're like, "This stuff is amazing, dude," and I'm like, "Is it really amazing?" And
it's just for the
but they're
FE, man.
totally willing to say that kind of stuff.
It's just for the FE. Yeah, they're just like not like.
They're like, "Dude, you're so smart. This is the coolest thing I've ever seen." And I'm like, "Why are you blowing smoke up my ass?" You know?
Okay, well we'll talk about that in a second because
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I've seen a lot of number fours do that. Uh, but anyways, like so for me, I do get annoyed at the self above try people for that, like especially when like what we're trying to suggest will also benefit them more than like the group like themselves too. Actually,
Oh, dude, I remember that too. Like being like, "Oh, why don't they just listen to me? Like, I actually know the answer this time."
no, but that the
I guess
happenings
it's because you
happen.
make yourself a joker the rest of the time. They're like, "Why should we? Why is this any different?"
But
What? What were you gonna say?
it's also happening to you because your FI thinks that you don't want to do something, but if the tribe drags you to do it, there's like a high chance you'll actually enjoy yourself, and then you'll be like, oh, and it's like, why was I so difficult when it could have been mutually fun, right, for everyone, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it sometimes gets a little bit tricky that way. Like for me, for example, the way I overrode this, because like like I'm a double decider at the end of the day, and like the older I get, the more double decider I become. Like so, for example, like someone cancels on me, like I'm like, oh man, like I wanted to interview this person, but this person canceled our interview. Now I'm thinking, I'm like, oh, I can do something else. My FI is like, hey, great opportunity. So now I see things as an opportunity, right? So everything's an opportunity, nothing's like a non-opportunity, right? It's like, and then if I think myself, it's like, oh, if I'm feeling resentment, I'm like, oh, you're feeling resentment because you're in scarcity, something to work on, opportunity again. You know what I mean? So it's like, I was like, oh, then I have an opportunity to work on this thing, this resentment thing, or the scarcity. Sorry. So how can I get more abundance in this area, right? So, it's kind of like not David Gone, sorry, Jocko Willing. Like when he says good, something bad happened to you, good opportunity, right? So for me, it's like, oh, opportunity, opportunity. So like I'm noticing for me personally, like the feeling of resentment being a DE, I recover so much faster now than I did before. Before I would take me longer to recover. Now it's so much quicker. Like, yeah. So I think like the FIT definitely has to communicate really quickly, like as fast as possible. Like I think like um it's kind of like what you said earlier. Also, it's like, oh, like why are you so quick to just do the interview, right, or whatever, right? It's like shouldn't you FI think about it first? I'm like, no, because everything's an opportunity. I don't like as an EP. I just tap into the EP archetype. Like it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity. Like why would I say
But
no
it's
to?
an opportunity maybe for something I don't want
But you
because
don't
like
know
that's
that.
the other side of it.
Sometimes you don't know if you don't. Sometimes,
Yeah, exactly. Because that's the FI trap that I'm falling for. I might not want that.
yeah, yeah, dude. No, it's
And
a
right now
hundred.
I have my little thing of all the stuff I like.
Yeah, no, dude, it's 100% a trap. Even when you do something you don't like doing, and your FI like not happy that at the moment, sometimes you leave that situation, you come back, you're like, I didn't like it, but I'm glad I did it. Like I learned something valuable. You know what I mean?
Or the exact opposite can happen where it's like somebody will be like, Lucas, it's really hot. You might want to cut your hair. And it's like, fuck you. And then you keep your hair long for 15 years. You know? It's like sometimes the FI is just like digs its heels in about random things that people remark.
That sounds more like
Because
SI
just
though. That's like your SI, your hair, right? Like almost like
that, yeah, you know what? Probably, yeah. But I
it's
guess I
like
just
double,
associate it
like
with like
double
the
personal.
SF in general.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
it's
like
double
sleep.
personal. Your hair's double personal. It's FI SI, right? So it's double personal. You know, like if it's I think
Yeah.
if it's just FI alone, it's you can maybe override it. But if it's like FI SI, it's like oh god, then that's like double personal, right? Like you know,
Yeah. Have you ever seen that meme of the penguin crossing his arms and he's like, "Well, now I don't wanna." That's like if the kids are like, "Dad, let's play video games," and I already wanted to play video games. It's like,
yeah.
"Well, now I don't wanna." That's FI, Savior.
That is that FI or EP. You know what I mean? Like being
Maybe. Well, it's a good question because that's kind of what I'm getting at is like, do you relate to that too? Like, whenever you're people that you genuinely love and care and want to spend time with, it's not any kind of trick you're trying to play on yourself.
yeah,
Your FI is like I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't like the FI is jerking me around. I really do love my kids, right? I really do want to spend more time with them.
yeah.
Yeah, so like do you experience that too where like you're not allowed to do the things that you really feel like are important and meaningful to you because of some arbitrary like I just don't want to.
It has to be something like I have a scale like 1 to 10. Like if it's 10 out of 10, I really don't want to do it. Then I'm not gonna do it. You can't make me do it.
Like fear factor. I'm not going to eat the live thing. I'm not going to put it in my mouth.
Yeah, but like I always look at it from a opportunity standpoint again. Like I mean, I'm an ENFP, so I'm, like growing up, I was scared of spiders, right?
That must be the TE like flair that I have the
I
FI
I,
in
don't-
my
I don't
life.
know
So like
where
I'm
well,
special.
I don't know, but like I'm scared of spiders growing up because I'm an ENFP. Like I'm not so scared now because I conquered half of it. Because when I was 18, my friend said, "Hey, let's put a tarantula on your hand." I'm like, I don't fucking put tarantula on my hand. I'm so scared of spiders. But then I look at my ISTJ friend, the one who's giving us grief right now. He's SIFI, right? Um, and he's also scared of spiders because I think people with NE are scared of spiders, right? Like regardless of where your stack is. So he's also scared of spiders, right? And he said to me, like, this looks the most unfair dare. He's like, Kendrick, if you let them put it in your hand, I'll touch it. I'm like, this is not fair. It's gonna crawl in my hand. You only have to touch it. That's stupid, right? But then I pause for a second. I'm like,
Not
wait a
fair.
minute. I think he's more.
Opportunity to get this guy to touch the
I,
spider. And
I
I don't
think
really care if I touch it.
and I'm like, I think he's more scared than me of the spider. I was thinking, and I'm like, B, I'm like, I can get over my fear. I think this could be like a, what do you call that? Exposure therapy for myself. So I was thinking of all the benefits, like if I were to do this in my head, right? Like very like,
Oh, savior thinking is such a boon, dude. I
yeah,
feel like
yeah. I think saber thinking, yeah, it's I'm using my thinking here, but NT, I guess I'm trying to figure like understand. I'm like, yeah, I think my fear will probably go down if I do this. Plus, like my friend will be scared and like I'll look cool too. My SF, I'll look SF cool. I have this tarantula crawling in my hand. I'm like, okay. And it's like, I'm like, just play it cool so they'll take it off your hand really quickly too. Like that's kind of like what I was thinking.
and I can tell that's really how it works in your head because of how you explained it. Whereas if I told you the same story, it would have ended a lot differently. It would have been like my friend put the spider in my hand, and I went, and
Yeah.
then like they never did that again. That
Yeah,
would have
but
been it.
it happened so quickly though.
Because I
Because
didn't want to, and that would have been
they,
the only rule.
they asked me, like, hey Kendrick, let's put a spider in your hand. And then my friend's like, yeah, Kendrick, if you let them put it in your hand, then I'll touch it. I had literally
That's
like,
crazy. That's like somebody else ordering your dinner and expecting you to eat it, and they're all watching you and laughing.
yeah, and I had
Like
like
that is crazy.
but all that stuff I explained to you, all that thought process happened within 1 minute. Like exposure therapy, my friend's more scared than me at this because like my NT's first double activated. It's so fast, right? My NT's so strong, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm like, let's do it. So I put my hand out. They put the tarantula on my hand. I'm like, fuck me. I was like dying inside. And I can feel like the claws of the tarantula like digging to my skin. And I'm like,
Ah,
and then like I'm looking at it, I'm like, fuck, this is so fucking scary. And it's like crawling under my hand like this. And I'm like, ugh. And I'm like, I'm playing it cool outside. I'm like, okay, now it's your turn. And my friend takes it off my hand. And then he's like far away. He ran away already. He never touched it, by the way. He chickened
what a
out.
wimp.
But ever since that happened, dude, 50% of my arachnophobia went away. I just was never was never scared as spiders anymore. Like I still hated them, but the fear was not there anymore. It was like if there's a giant spider
That's a
before
really
I
way
would
of saying it. I still hated them, but I wasn't afraid.
no, I would run away before if I see a giant spider. I would run away. But now if I see it, I can kill it. Right? It's like I still hate it. I'm still a bit freaked out, but I'll kill it. It's like nothing can be worse than having a tarantula crawl in your hand, you know, like the exposure therapy. So it's like, yeah. But anyways, dude, I want to go back to we went side
Yeah,
tangent here a bit, but I want
the
to go
quick
back to the social
four
type a
question.
little bit. So you were talking about like the practicality of social types and whatnot, and I was kind of mentioning earlier that, um, I started practicing Blast, making those explainer videos, because my thought process being a number two was, if I want to get more subscribers in my channel, right? I don't have to do the whole like, hey guys, like and subscribe my video, hit the subscribe button, all that bullshit stuff that you have to do, right?
Yeah,
Like,
that's awful. Yeah.
but if you have a really like, I do say it because like I was watching Mr. Beast and he does say it, but like he did it at the end. He only says it once, not like annoying, right? Not like pandering annoying. I'm just like hit. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I just say it quickly now, like only for explainer videos. I don't do it for the interviews, right? But like, I was thinking about, I was like, wait a minute. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, have I been to a YouTube channel before where like the content was so good? I hit the subscribe button because I was like just so impressed how good this channel was. I'm like all
That's
the
what I
time.
always do. I never do it because someone asks me to.
Yeah, all the time. I'm like, this.
See, because I have that thing where it's like, well, now I don't want it. You told me to subscribe, and I'm not
Yeah,
gonna do it.
yeah,
I'll
yeah,
just search your channel again next time.
yeah, yeah. So I'm like, so I'm like, oh, so I'm like, so if I just made the video as good as I could possibly do it, I can get subscribers and whatever, like likes, whatever, without doing that annoying pandering shit. I don't have to do the pandering shit. Like I never did it to begin with. Like I did a little bit now because like I was watching Mr. Beast and he actually does it, so it's part of a strategy. But you only do it like at the end of the video and it's quick. And it's not, you don't do it in a pandering way where like, hey guys, please subscribe to my video. It really helps my algorithm, all that bullshit, right? Like Mr. Beast, like, subscribe or subscribe to get a cookie or something, like something funny, right? So I'm like, okay, so it's part of like the YouTube strategy. But like, so I'm like, oh, so that's like the benefit of specialization. When you do something good, so good that people will just, you'll get the result that you're looking for because the work speaks for itself. The work speaks for
Mhm.
itself, right? So that to me is very practical, as a number two, um, because I can see the benefit of the number four, which is like, oh, it speaks for itself. Therefore, I have credibility without pandering, right? And then my other demon is, flex, right? Now it's not fourth, so I have it activated, and my flex is travel, right? I just tell people, oh, I've been to 100 countries, right? You know, and then Dave calls it chill flex, right? Because like I don't go into the details like, oh, have you been? Have you been to 100 also? Oh, you haven't. You're a loser. Like
Mhm.
I don't like, you know. It's like the number ones do it, where it's like it gets a little bit on the cringy side, right? It's like I drop it and I get out, right? So, but it's still good to do like a chill flex because you still get taken seriously because people are like, oh, Kendrick's into like this travel stuff and he's been to 100 countries. Suddenly I'm an expert in this one topic, travel, right? So now I'm like my status in the tribe goes up, and and
Hmm.
and then it's like, oh, it's for travel. Like people come to me for travel advice, like, hey Kendrick, what do you have any advice for like, what to do in this country, right? Or like, and then
Mhm.
that's almost like permission to blast for you, for example, like your blast last, right? Imagine you were seen as an expert on something. People will want you to blast on this topic all the time, right? And then they'll take what you say seriously, right? So it's actually a good thing. So like the savior flex is good. I mean, my flex could also use a lot more work because like I feel like I did
But
that.
how do you know when you're willing to take the risk? Because you have higher blast than me. And so in theory, you're not having any problem. Like, well, what if I tell them the wrong thing and they go and they have a terrible time? That's what I'm worried about all the time. Is like the advice I'm gonna give is gonna be bad, defective. Like my filter wasn't good enough, and like it helped me, but it's just gonna make them crazy. You know what I mean? Not
Um,
like a bunch of alternate what ifs, but kind of more like
so no, okay,
I
okay.
don't know, just like
I have a there is something that happened that is exactly what you said. So, um, I work part-time in this gym, right? Um, as a fitness attendant and personal trainer and spin instructor. So
hmm,
there's this uh there's this girl that comes to my spin class all the time. So she came and asked me about travel, and
mhm.
my girlfriend and me were talking to her about travel, and we were raving to her about Malaysia, right? We're like, Malaysia's so awesome, it's like one of the best countries. Then she went there, and she hated it. So it's like a good example of like, oh, maybe we blasted a little bit too soon. But the thing is though, it's like we just double decided later on. We're like, oh, travel is like subjective, and the experience is gonna be different for everyone. And so I guess you just have to do a disclaimer before you give an advice, and that's number one. And number two is double decide. Like it's like, oh, based on what I know about you, and maybe I should have said, I should have like dig deeper about her. Like, knowing what her FI wanted, because she was an ESFP, right? Like I should have known like she's into more like clean, luxurious countries as opposed to like, you know, slightly in the Wild West side. Like Malaysia's not in the Wild West, but it's definitely not like Japan, right? Because she went to Japan and then went to Malaysia. But I think she should have went to Malaysia first, where it's like slightly more in the Wild West, and then Japan after. Because then the expectation has not been like dropped a little bit. Because like you go to Japan and Japan's like, I don't know if you've been there, but it's really modern, really clean,
Hmm.
and it's gonna set the bar too high. So the next country you go to is not gonna match the expectation, and you're not gonna be happy. You know what I mean? Like, so
Yeah.
yeah. So I think a lot of it's just double deciding. You have to be like really understand the other person. Like, okay, what's this person really into? Oh, this person likes this. Okay, so then add a disclaimer to front end. Be like, hey, I like this personally, but knowing what I know about you, I don't know if you'll like it. So try it, but if you don't like it, it's
Like, let me show you like an example, tell you a quick example of like where that, like,
sure.
this is the thing I'm trying to avoid. I remember like I was in a group therapy class with a guy and he was trying to quit smoking. And I just casually mentioned after the class that if he wanted, I could send him, I had like a couple of hypnosis audio files. And he was just like, "Pff, oh, like I don't know what that is, and like don't do that." Like, and so like it kind of gives me this like well, like, how do you know? It's like almost like you don't have to know. Just like it feels like you're saying, like, go, like, just hit on any chick at the bar. And I'm like, but I don't, what if she's not into me? Like, what if she's not receptive? Like, that seems like the core, like, I want it to be a mutual thing that we're both, whereas instead of be proselytizing or like giving you my opinion on what you should do.
Yeah, but it's the thing though. Sometimes you don't know, so you have to do it for everyone, and then you course correct afterwards. Damage control. Sorry, like I mean,
Yes. And
the
that's what
person,
I was, you're right.
like the person that you were describing, sounds like probably they're probably lead ST, NF last. Will never listen to you to begin with because they have NF last. Like I've interviewed people, like the last few interviews I've done was like NF last people, like, and then I asked them, oh, like, do you believe in NF? They're like, no. That's what they told me. They're like, NF is bullshit, right? And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know, like,
That's funny because it goes both ways. I remember telling my brother yesterday that matter wasn't real, as like
like ST is
honestly as
not
like
real.
mean anything.
The ST,
Yeah, I mean, like, it's not. This is just a really fast light doing its thing, and I know that. That's the actual ST. You're all delusional thinking this is here,
yeah,
and Logan just can't handle that kind of stuff.
that's
Where the
funny.
like where the woo is the truth,
Wait,
it's
Logan's the guy
just
interviewed in the channel?
stranger than fiction. Yeah, you've interviewed him. He's my brother.
Oh,
But he's not an ESFP. Well, I don't know. I don't want to ruin this video, but like
okay.
he's definitely got TI.
Oh yeah, he was typed as ESFP. I remember that. Okay, but
Yeah, but it's been years and years, and he and I have talked about it a lot since then. And he's TI savior for sure.
oh, okay. But anyway, anyways, I was like, what? He's your brother? I was like, sometimes I interview people and they're like, they know each other, and I'm like, what? It's like I remember I interviewed Savannah, and then she was friends with like the ENFP guy, you know.
Which one?
Matthew is his name. Is that his
Oh
name?
yeah, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Like he has like a Russian last name, I
The
think.
one who has like straight hair and his eyes are like,
He's like Russian. Um,
yeah.
yeah. And I'm like, what? You guys
He
are
always
child?
has really good posts, and I like reading what he posts.
Yeah, he sleep
I
around.
just feel like that way about all the NFPs, but it's because I have TE and I don't have to believe all of it. I feel like the TI's got to come in and be like, this is not true. This is wrong. And I just don't
Yeah,
have that issue. I just have this like mental one that just filters for me. It's so
yeah. It's
much
a
easier.
little bit dangerous because sometimes like I say something, I'm not really completely confident about it, and the TE people that's watching my channel will just take it at face value, and I'm um, like I kind of wish I had like a TI like check my work to make sure it's actually accurate, like. And it's so for the most part it's good, but there's like a few stuff I've put out before in the past where I was like a little bit on the fence, Like I did my research in it, like my consume, because I'm infodom, but still I was like, there's still like a part of me that kind of want to get audited by a TI, like just to make sure I got it correctly. But anyways, um, yeah, dude. So like for me, like being SF last and like Flex Demon, right? I'm like, I completely believe the SF. I hate it, but I believe it, because like when I was younger, I went all into SF before. Like I got really jacked in the gym, like I was like really ripped, like 9% body fat. Suddenly I was like friends with everyone in the gym. People were asking me for advice, and like suddenly when you're high SF, suddenly you're like your NTs is perceived as high also, which is so stupid. It makes no sense. Like they think you're the smartest just because you like look good. So dumb. I was I was like an SF point when I was working on the gym. I was in college and I got a chance to work with like a celebrity image consultant who like taught me like how to dress nice doing stuff. So I was like going all into SF, right? And like and then that's when like I was so mad at like the end result of that. I was like, I'm being taken seriously now because I look better. But like I did not change as a person. I'm still the same person. My FY is like I'm still the same person. And like the stuff that I was telling people in the before was has always been valid, but now it's extra valid because the SF is high. Like that pisses me off, right? But I do
I see
believe
that.
it is like legit though. Like if you look at the social hierarchy, like if you do flex, you are gonna be taken some more seriously. Like it's gonna happen, right? Especially if it's like your second or third flex, you know, not like first flex, right? Fourth, I think fourth would also work because you guys don't do it enough. So when it comes out, it's like, oh, I gotta take this seriously because I never hear you talk about this. You know what I mean? Like kind of deal. So um yeah, so I think it's super practical, man. Like just from that perspective, like as I mentioned, I need to flex more and I need to specialize more. Like, and you need to flex more, and you need to do like the broad responsibility coin, which is like playing with your kids when they want to play, when you don't want to play, right? That's like broad responsibility, right? You know, like, and because I feel like when you use your demons, socials, or animals or cognitive function, I feel like you level up faster. Like, it's just like something I've noticed than if you don't use it. Like, I don't know if you personally noticed that. Like, even if you did like this one thing,
I haven't noticed that.
yeah, it's like a huge upgrade. It's like like you know about newbie gains, right? Like um
Hmm.
yeah, like if you go to the gym the first few months you get the most gains. Like have you ever played those app games? Like when you play an app game, they try to like hook you in, so they give you so much rewards when you first play, like ding 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 ding, everything's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. Oh, like Temu, how they want you to like,
whatever game, man.
get the
All the app games, they do this. They're trying to rope you in, so everything's shining. They start ding ding ding, like free item, yeah, legendary,
yeah,
whatever
yeah.
bullshit, right? And then once you've committed enough, then you get like less reward, right? You know, um, But then when you work for something long enough, it does feel good. You know what I mean? So,
Hmm.
um, so I feel like that's how it is for demons. It's like if you practice it a little bit, you get a lot of the ding 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 thing happening because it's like you're getting level up so quickly, right? But then eventually you hit a wall, and then you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. It's too triggering. It's too painful. But then that's when you actually have to work on it, because then then you'll get like the deeper sense of satisfaction when you hit you know there's no finish
Yeah,
line, but like as you get further along your journey.
yeah, that makes sense to me. I like that.
Yeah.
That's good insight.
All right, so Lucas, before we wrap this interview, is there something we didn't cover today that you wanted us to address? Because you requested this interview, right? So there must be something that like, it's like you wanted to discuss, or maybe we discussed it already. If that's the case, we can just wrap it up. So was there something that we did not discuss that you wanted to discuss? And also, if you
No,
don't have
no.
anything to discuss, just talk about your why you don't want to flex. Why flex is
Yeah, 'cause it's uh it's a bad not a bad look, but like I think it's probably because it's paired with my FI, and it's like this kind of like, well, that kind of behavior is something I associate with like villains or with people who have unearned arrogance, or
yeah,
with people who, are making other like the only way they can do that is through exploiting others. So I have all these negative associations, and so like I don't flex because then my FI says, well, now you're one of those, and so then I have to deal with the emotions of that. Whereas if I don't play the game, I don't win stupid prizes.
yeah.
I don't have to deal with myself later or you later. But the problem is I never self-promote. So I never get raises at work. Nobody ever really knows how good I am at stuff, or like what all I can do. Kind of what you said, where like people are caught off guard and they're surprised, like, oh, you know about this? Like, yeah. Well, you never say anything, like you never bring it up, like that you like have done that,
Let,
you know.
let, let me ask you a
That
question.
happens to me pretty often.
Let me ask you a question that it's kind of interesting to think about. Okay, um, have you ever met anyone that flex a lot and you like them a lot because they flex a lot? The fact that they flex
Yeah.
makes you like them. Yeah. Okay. So why can't you do that when someone else can do it? And they actually became more likable because they did it. Like, I'll give you an example. I have two friends that are number threes and they flex so hard, right? The one I was telling you about earlier, the one that gives me grief, the ICJ jumper. I think he's either MM or FM. He's definitely aggressive with the tribe, and he's like feminine with himself. He talks like a girl too, like the feminine FI. When it comes out, it's like so funny. But anyways, like he'll say so many cocky things that is so funny, right? Like, when we were kids, we used to play basketball, and he'll dribble, right? And before he shoots, he'll look at the person first. He'll be like, "Up your ass," and he'll throw the ball in. He'll go inside, right? Like it's like he'll talk shit first, right? But
Yeah,
like
that's
if he
funny.
if he loses, you know what he'll say to people? He'll say to us, he's like, "You know why you won? Because I allowed it." That's what he'll say, right? And it's like so funny, right? It's like so cocky and it's so funny. He's like, "I allowed it," right? Like it's just so funny, And like my other friend who's like an ISTP, he always flexing, right? Showing us his like Mercedes and stuff. He granted he deserves to flex because he's self-made millionaire. Okay. So when someone's self-made, I think you have the right to flex. That's just my opinion. Because as a number two, I know how much work
Yeah.
you put into something. So if that's what brings you joy is to flex, then so be it. And for me, because I've like flex in the middle, I don't get triggered by people flexing. So when I see him flexing, I'm like, hey, you know what? You deserve this. You deserve to flex. You earned this. Go flex. I will encourage you to flex. My number one friend hates it because he feels inferior, right? Like absolutely inferior.
I'm attaching it in a way that I can't disattach from like external validation seeking. And I just look down on it. And I can't,
It
and
is.
again, this is an FI thing, just as stupid as I don't want to play with my kids. I already see that it doesn't make sense and that like, yeah, I like the guys that like do it. It was the same as back whenever I was in like I said, I was in a group recovery for a while. Well, I could never say any of my stuff because I was always like, these guys are gonna judge me. And it's like eventually, if you've ever been in group therapy, you kind of realize that everybody's got shit and then you don't have to be worried about it anymore.
Yeah.
But like in the beginning, you're all like, oh, what if they know? And like my thing, it's so weird. And it's probably like that for everyone. It's just like, where is it that it's sensitive for you?
Well, I mean, the number ones are the most confident and insecure person at the same time, right? Because of that external validation, right? Because when you get an external validation, you are the most confident person in the room, right? But then when you are not getting it, you are the most insecure person. So it is a double-edged sword. I do find it interesting you're seeing it from that perspective because you are a number four and that is your demon, essentially. The flex is your demon, right? So you would be triggered by that flex thing. But like for me as a number two and my friends who are number threes, we have it in the middle. So for me, like I can flex too, right? But I don't flex as much they do, but I'll throw it in, here and there to be, but we do it in a way to be funny. Like I think that's like the key word, or to be helpful, right? So if I flex about my travel stuff, yes, I'm bragging about it, but at the same time, I also know in the back of my head, for two reasons. The first reason is, um, people want to know something about me. People are curious. They want to know something about me, just like I'm curious about them. So if I don't flex about anything, they don't know anything about me. So how can we build a better relationship if I'm not flexing about anything, right? I should flex about something, even if it's just one thing. For me, it's travel. And it's good. I have something to flex about. It's just one thing. And if I flex about it, people are like, tell us about more. We want to hear about it, right? Um,
I think
continue.
that's funny how you bring up like the joking flex, because I think there's a joking friends too.
So before you
Hmm?
continue, sorry. Because you're leaving a
No
void
worries.
if you don't flex. You're leaving a void in the tribe.
I see.
So you're leaving a void as a number four because you're not flexing. There's a void.
But is the void not what I'm saying it is? Because I called it self-promoting. Like I'm not self-promoting. What is flexing besides that?
It's self-promoting that connects you better with a tribe. It's 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 self-promoting doesn't have to be connected to negativity. Self-promoting can be a positive thing. It could be funny when someone's being cocky.
But like in Parks and Rec, how like they like Ben Schwartz's character would just
I
run
haven't
in
seen
and be
the show.
like doing all kinds of ridiculous stuff. Well, that's what I see, and it's not with you. I wasn't thinking of you, but I just mean that like with him, like the kind of thing that that character does, where they just kind of schmooze around and be all social and self-promote. It's like very sleazy to me. Like it's like, what are you doing?
I
So
think
I just don't want to be caught doing stuff that I wouldn't want to watch somebody else do.
okay. I think you have to look at the intention behind it. Like when Tony Robbins flexes, it's cringe as hell. Okay, it's so cringe. For me, Tony Robbins come across as a slimy salesperson. He's not a bad guy though, but he does have that vibe that he's trying to like sell you something. He's trying to make money, right? And he's like name dropping all the time and flexing and stuff. Even though he's a number two, he's doing all the stuff, right? But like when someone's doing it in a funny way, kind of like my buddy is like, I allowed it, like that's funny, right? That's like a funny flex, right? And then also like
Hmm.
so if you're playing video games and you said to someone, it's like, you only won because I let you win, right? It's kind of funny. It's like, oh really? Is that right? Now it's like fun. Like
Hmm.
there's like tension. Now we can like now it's like a fun thing, right?
Okay, so I do that kind of stuff sometimes, but it's more matter of fact. It's more like get shit on kid and I just leave.
Yeah.
Like I'll like randomly like I'll just be like, all right, well, enjoy like eating my ass, and then that's the last thing. I won't like I'm not gonna do it over and over and over, but like once every 6 months, like it's funny for me.
Yeah. Okay, I'll tell you another funny flex I do. Like, so I like to play like PGA golf on my PlayStation with my friends. It's like four
Hmm.
players and it's fun. And like to get the best hit, you have to wait for the squares to align and then turn. Like I don't know if it's squares or something, but like something has to turn green. And if you get two greens, you get the best, most accurate hit, right? And like
Hmm.
um I'm really good at video games because I've been playing games since I was a kid, and like I just like have like a second nature to it. Like, and like I always get green, green. I always beat my friends in this golf game, right? And so when we're not playing golf and we're out like doing other activities, like let's say like recently we tried curling, right? Um, and like at first I was like hot trash. I was like the worst in the team, but like I picked it up really quickly. So by the end of it, I actually scored the most. And then I kept going up, and I started flexing. Right, I started going up to my friends, and I started going up to them. I'm like another green, green. Kind of like the golf game, right? Like that's me getting
Yeah.
cocky. Right? I'm like green, green, another green, green, because like I'm getting all this like the score, the points from curling, right? You know. And then they're like laughing their ass off, right? Because it's like cocky, but it's kind of funny, because it's like a reference to something else. But there's no like
Hmm.
I guess you could look at the motive behind it, and the motive to be funny, like the motive behind it to be funny. So I think if you're gonna be
Yeah.
doing something like cocky and flexy, if you do it in the intention to be funny, then completely cool, completely cool.
That's why I brought up the friends thing, because I think there's a friends version of this, which is where you're like, you old bastard, you old son of a bitch. You kind
But
of
but
act like you're not fond of them, but you love them. It's that
but
kind
but,
of
but
thing.
that's not flexing though. You're not flexing when you're doing that.
No, I know. I'm saying that's the friend savior version of the fake flex. I'm just pretending to not like you.
Oh, it's like the anti-flex. It's like that, but this is like a number four friendly banter thing, energy dominant kind of energy exchange thing. I don't know if that makes sense. Because flex is like
Yeah.
because when you flex, you have to say you're the best at something. Like or like you either have to be like best at performing or look or appearance wise, Like something has to be the best, right? Or something has to look good, right? That's what flex is. So that's why
Hmm.
like wondering in your case, like, do you have an outlet for this where you're like, I can perform the best at this, or I can look the best at this, or I stand out the most. It could be attention seeking too, right? You know, so which is I know number fours don't
Yeah.
want to get attention, but like you probably
Well, it's also just like something that I personally have been trying to like work through and like through like a different lens.
yeah
And so like I don't want to like get like because I haven't slept on this thing that you're saying. Like I don't
yeah
want to disagree with you because I don't know, but
yeah
I don't want to agree because I haven't compared it to my other concepts, you know? So
right, fair
sleep
enough, that makes sense.
issues.
Yeah, because like, dude, you can get a raise doing this. Like this flex thing, dude, you could be making more money and then your life is better. Like for me, when I work in the gym, I just go up to my boss and I'm like, hey man, can I get a raise? That's why I literally just go up, right? And they're like, and they're like kind of like another thing, They're like, oh, okay, well, you are hardworking. That's what they'll say. It's like, okay, let me see what I can do. I'm like, great. And if they say no, 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 no foul done, at least I asked. And for me, it's also my FI. It's like, will I respect myself if I don't ask for a raise? You know what I mean? And the answer is like no.
Hmm.
And it's not even about the money, honestly. It's like, did I have the guts to do it? It's like one of my top five values for my FISI is like courage. So for me, I'm like, I'm gonna do this thing that's uncomfortable because I want to build up my self esteem, my self respect, and I get self respect when I perceive myself as being brave or courageous. So I'm gonna do this thing that is uncomfortable, asking my boss for a raise, point blank. I'm not even gonna provide a reason. I'll just be like, hey, can I get a raise? you know, um, and that's it. And then see what happens. And then that to me is the reward. The race is not the reward for me. The reward is
It's
the
so crazy how our saviors and demons influence that little flip. Because for me, it's like needing to prove to everybody that I'm not incompetent because I can do it and I do know how to do it.
Yeah.
and I'm not stupid. And like just because I dropped a wrench on my head doesn't mean I'm a moron. Just means I made a mistake. Like there's this like TE like whereas FI's like I already know that I'm the best and like I don't know what this body's doing like messing up all the time, but
Yeah.
like there's this certain like savior FI quality that I think
Oh,
most FIs would understand.
oh, you're trying to prove your TE because that's a demon. And I'm trying to prove my FI to myself because it's my demon. Oh, that's so interesting. That like
Yeah.
we have that fascination with our demon and we're trying to prove something to others or self. Yours is external because it's T. Mine's internal because it's FI. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I can't prove anything to the internal guy. The internal guy is like its own separate thing.
So
That's
when
why I
you
kind of think of it like a parasite. I'm like, what are you doing in here? Get
the
out.
FI. So that means when you flex, it has to be TE then. Your flex has to be TE. I see.
That would make sense. Like, look what team I'm on. Oh, I already do that. I'm on the best. Uh, I tell my dad, I say we're the industry leader, dude.
Oh,
There you go. It's a team flex. We are the best.
oh, I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
and they're teaching me, and I'm gonna be as good as them. You see what I mean?
But then you have to do a solo flex then as like as a added on top of that. Like,
When I've earned it, right? But I'm not gonna like jump the gun and be like, I'm hot shit, when in fact I've only done 6 jobs.
oh, I see, I see. Gotcha. So you're waiting until you have
You gotta like we talked about it
more
in your
SI.
context already, but like earning it or needing permission,
Yeah.
it's like I gotta earn a flex. I can't just like do whenever I feel like it.
You can't do what the number
Like
one's
if I like get a promotion, okay, maybe I'll flex for like a day or two.
you know what? That makes a lot of sense because a lot of number ones they do flex without earning it first. They just feel like entitled to it, especially the DI ones. Maybe the DEs one, the DE ones will get like a little bit insecure first because they're like, I need to prove myself first, which is the right way to do it. With the right way to do it, actually, you know. But like there's something to be said about assuming value right from the get go. Also, because like it does work even though it's like kind of BS, because you're a fraud, you're gonna get found out eventually. You know what I mean? So it's better
Hmm.
to do it the right way than to try to shortcut your way there, and then there's no substance inside, right? You know?
Yeah, it's kind of like don't ever lie because then you gotta remember all that shit you lied about. Whereas if you just only tell the truth, then you don't have to remember anything.
Yeah, or like the consume last, the double activated blaster. It's like it's like, okay, where did you get this fact from? Like you fact check them, there's like nothing, right? And it's like embarrassing, right? It's like you know, yeah.
Yeah, it can be really cringe depending on how it plays out. Like if they're
Yeah,
like, "Where did you even hear that?" And they're like, "I don't know."
that's why I think Dave
Yeah.
is so good as like consume last INTJ because like he consume a lot of videos for like a consume last more than what I've had done. Like
Oh.
being an EP, like
I'm always surprised that he's heard about stuff that like I've heard about from like very far reaches of things that I'm like, Dave already typed this guy? Like, so I
yeah, no,
relate
it's
to what you mean.
impressive.
He
Like
does have a good consume.
no, and like he's consumed last, but he's aware he's consumed last, so he's doing it, and he's setting a good example to other consume last people. Like this is the right way to do it. Look at the OPS system. It's foolproof, right? It's so good, right? And like it cannot have been built without if he didn't do all the consume, right? And also obviously with teaming up with Shan, right? Like if they never work together, right? So it's like you when you use your fourth animal, magic happens, right? You have to use it. Yeah.
Yeah. Fair. Yeah.
All right, Lucas, we'll wrap it up here. So thanks for coming out and sharing more about where you are at right now when it comes to your animals. Looks like the SD Blastlass is making its way up in terms of improvement, but the flex is definitely like
Definitely.
empty and probably something that you probably have to do some investigation.
Yeah, I've really spent like the last couple of years working on play since we talked and only last like few months working on ST and Blast.
Yeah.
Trying to get organized, trying to get to where like I know all the terminology. You say, get me that 25 millimeter, I know whatever the hell that is.
Yeah, but
Right?
dude, I interview a lot of Blastlass ENFP, so I can see your improvement. Like I'm not joking. Like I interview a lot of ENFPs that who can barely talk. Like I can see that you
Right.
can do it now in a functional level. It's good, man. It's good. So, take it. Take the
Thanks.
compliment. All
Appreciate it, dude.
right. Later, dude.
All right, man. Good talking to you.